What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 3MT. Chapter 71. Is there a shortage of people in the Hokage live broadcast room? Advertisement. After a group of skirt friends witnessed Luo Hao's deal with Sengoku through the live broadcast, the whole skirt chat exploded on the spot. Every member was stunned by Luo Hao's operation of live streaming. The income brought by a live broadcast that spanned 5 worlds made each of them jealous. Zhang Chulin. 10 bad Hashirama cells actually bought 10 superior devil fruits. I feel sorry for 5 elders. Whitebeard. Billion, you pity other people's A**. When he finishes harvesting the 5 elders, you will be the next one to be cut off. Seeds. To be precise, we skirt friends. Aizen Zong Yukai. This is the rhythm of wanting a wave of fat. Zhang Chulin. Boss Luo, is there still a shortage of people in your Hokage live broadcast room? After silently calculating Luo Hao's income from crossing the pirates this time, Zhang Chulin took a deep breath on the spot. First harvest 10 high-level devil fruits from Marine, then 5 high-level devil fruits from Pluton Rayleigh, and finally 4 of their skirt friends. Harvesting the power systems and treasures of the 4 worlds in one go, in the end Luo Hao just paid for the 16 rotten Hashirama cells. Not to mention Zhang Chulin, even Aizen Sosuke, who was very deep in the city, figured out what Luo Hao got from a live broadcast, and regretted it on the spot. I knew that when I first entered the skirt chat, I shouldn't be busy with Hogyoku's affairs and ignore Whitebeard's request. Otherwise, it is not Luo Hao, but Aizen Sosuke, who is live streaming now. My Shinigami live broadcast room must be set up in the near future, otherwise the era of skirt chat live streaming will be monopolized by Mr. Hokage alone. At this time, Aizen Yuji, Zhang Chulin and others realized that Qunchao had entered a new era with belated attention. One created by Luo Hao, the era of live streaming. If they want to stand out in the skirt chat, they must become a live broadcaster with goods. No hurry, I still have one thing I haven't done well. Once this is done, I can leave. Quote. Advertisement. Facing Sengoku's warm invitation, Luo Hao declined while admiring the turbulent skirt chat content. I don't know what is it. If we Marine can do it, I'm going to help you do it right now. Quote. Sengoku was obviously worried about letting Luo Hao, the Buddha, stay in Marineford. Even as an errand, he would comfortably send Luo Hao out of Naval Headquarters. No need, I can do it myself. After Luo Hao finished speaking, he slapped the air with his right hand suddenly. Click. With the sound of glass shattering one after another, space cracks burst out of the places hit by his hands. The sea frozen by Aokiji first collapsed into countless huge ice rocks, and then the naval headquarters of Nuoda began to shake violently. Several cracks, like a giant python, meander and circle on the land of Marineford. In an instant, the naval headquarters of Nuoda was divided into 4. Not only that, when the vibration stopped, a majestic shock wave burst out immediately, and then crushed towards the center of Marineford. Your Excellency Hokage, is this what you mean by withdrawing from the war? I see you're really serious about helping Whitebeard destroy our naval headquarters. Quote. Sengoku growled in horror and anger. Just one hit, and naval headquarters is going to be wiped out. Damn it, it was discovered. This man who appeared out of nowhere is really scary. Luo Hao ignored Sengoku, but silently stared at the place pushed past by the shock wave. Just when Sengoku was about to run out of patience, there was a sudden sound of cursing from the center of Marineford. Advertisement. Hearing this, Sengoku forcibly suppressed the anger in his heart, then turned his head to look, and suddenly found a huge silhouette that almost covered naval headquarters. This is a huge battleship. San Juan Wolf. Isn't he locked up on the 6th floor of the big submarine prison? Oops, something happened to impel down. At this point, it wasn't just Sengoku who noticed something was wrong. Many Marine generals present looked at San Juan Dire Wolf who suddenly appeared in naval headquarters with horrified faces. Blackbeard. When Garp saw clearly the figures under the smoke and dust, his eyes immediately turned cold. If it hadn't been for the Marine coat on his body to remind him that Whitebeard's priority now was to deal with Whitebeard, he would have rushed to kill Blackbeard alive on the spot while he was still recovering. Thief, ha ha ha, you are indeed the 4th Hokage who can intimidate Marine and Whitebeard all by himself. Laozi Marshal D. Teach, meet. Quote. Blackbeard patted the dust off his body, then greeted Luo Hao as if no one else was there. Blackbeard, right, it just so happens that I have something and I want your help. Quote. Luo Hao looked at Blackbeard from a distance. I didn't expect a big man like you to have heard of Laozi's name. Tell me, what do you want Laozi to help you with? Although Laozi may not necessarily help you. Quote. Marshal D. Teach let out a grin, showing what few teeth he had. Chapter 72 Wood Style. Clap your hands. Advertisement. This favor, you will definitely help. Luo Hao spread out his right hand, and a massive white mask immediately entrenched on his right hand. Shock fruit. When Marshal D. Teach saw it, the greed in his eyes could hardly be concealed. He worked so hard to plan this summit war, isn't it just to get rid of Whitebeard and get this shock fruit at the same time? But now, before he started to act, he found that Whitebeard's shock fruit fell into Luo Hao's hands. This made him startled and angry, but even more unwilling. Hiding aside for so long, he has witnessed Luo Hao's terrifying strength with his own eyes. Even the hero Garp can't catch Luo Hao's 3 palms head on. He doesn't think he can deal with Luo Hao with a dark fruit. Want it? Luo Hao looked at Blackbeard's greedy face with a half smile. If you are willing to give up the fruit of Junjun 007, no matter what you ask Laozi to do, Laozi can promise you. Although Blackbeard wanted to snatch Luo Hao's shock fruit immediately, the remaining rationality in his brain allowed him to barely control his inner greed. Don't be so excited. This thing is easy for you. I just want to ask you to borrow something. Luo Hao smiled lightly. What do you want? Marshal D. Teach fixed his eyes on the white mask in Luo Hao's palm. At this moment, there was nothing other than shock fruit in his eyes. Borrow your head. Advertisement. Luo Hao stepped forward with his right foot and inadvertently kicked Ace, who was kneeling at his feet and blocking his way. What? Ace, who was kicked, was not only shot into the air like a football being volleyed vigorously, but even the doffed seastone handcuffs that restrained his hands and feet were kicked into powder. You. Quick. Stop the fire fist, Ace. Sengoku's eyes suddenly glared at Luo Hao. But before he could look away, Luo Hao, who was standing in front of him, had disappeared. Thinking of the strength of Luo Hao and the importance of Fire Fist Ace, he could only forcefully suppress the urge to wrestle arms with Luo Hao, then turned his head and yelled at Kizaru. Ace. Kizaru's action is fast. Can't stand it. The Whitebeard pirates have already prepared for it. As early as a second before Ace was, accidentally, kicked away by Luo Hao, Margao had already soared into the sky. And Whitebeard, who was in a hurry, had secretly formed a bond early on. Wood-style birth of the tree world. Drank the water of heroes and took a large tube of Hashirama cells, and the degree of fusion is almost perfect. You mustache is so arrogant. He does not learn wood-style ninjutsu such as big forest technique, 4-pillar prison, and 4-pillar house for building and greening. As a newcomer to wood-style ninjutsu, he directly learned the iconic ninjutsu of first Hokage, birth of the tree world. Puff. The land of Marineford and the sea frozen by Aokiji burst into big craters one after another. Immediately afterwards, towering giant trees full of majestic vitality, Buddha-like life, and wisdom immediately broke through the ice and ground. In an instant, most of Marineford almost turned into a forest. What the hell? Just when Kizaru was about to transform into a flash of light, boa constrictor-like tree trunks struck him from all directions, forcing him to stop abruptly. Advertisement. Kizaru, who was the fastest among the Marines, was stumbled, and Margao, who jumped into the air one step earlier, was naturally unblocked, so he easily caught Ace, and then flew back. Quote exclamation mark quote. The scene where Ace was rescued almost made Sengoku's eyes tear open. At this time, he can only hope for Garp after using Hashirama cells. Although it's a little unethical for Garp to grab his grandson himself, but he can't control that much at this time. After all, 5 Elders is still watching the battlefield. If he does not act, he will not only harm himself, but also harm Garp. At least, he had to yell at Garp twice as if symbolically. Stop shouting, that veteran is still a little bit closer to regaining his youth. Whitebeard stands proudly on the top of a giant tree, with a happy and smug smile on his face. Having used Hashirama cells, he knows the fusion process and time too well. Damn Whitebeard, you wait for the old man. In a few minutes, the old man will definitely throw you into the big prison under the sea with his own hands. Sure enough, although Garp wanted to do it immediately, he could only stand there with a blushing face. Because he felt that the fusion of his body and Hashirama cells had reached the most critical process. Meteor volcano. Garp faltered, and Sengoku had no choice but to let go of the leash on Akainu, allowing him to jump out and bite. While he didn't expect Akainu to bite Whitebeard either, he couldn't mention anyone else either. Gu la la la, Laozi's wood style is not afraid of your mere magma. Whitebeard grinned, and clapped his hands together. Obviously, judging by his posture, he is about to perform wood-style ninjutsu again. He can play this wood style so smoothly when he just got started, thanks to the fact that the wood style of first Hokage can be cast with just 1 or 2 seals, or with a clap of both hands. Otherwise, with his lame speed of completing the seal, it is estimated that his sons would have been beaten to death before the seal was completed. Chapter 73 Laozi will let you know what it means to be so scary today. Advertisement. What? Seeing Whitebeard clapping his hands together, Sengoku and the others tensed up immediately, and their eyes looked left and right for a while. Whitebeard, do you think I'm afraid of you with all this fancy stuff? Sengoku and the others watched their surroundings vigilantly, carefully guarding against Whitebeard's methods, but Akainu had no such intention. As Admiral of the Headquarters, he only has one word in his mind. Gang. Seeing that Whitebeard clapped his hands and was about to hold back his big move, Akainu not only did not retreat, but instead spewed a large magma punch at Whitebeard. Pearls of mere grains of rice, can they also emit brilliance? Laozi will let you know what horror is like today. Whitebeard roared, and everyone standing in Marineford felt that the sky suddenly turned black, down. When they raised their heads, a wooden dragon with a length of 100 meters was entrenched in the sky of the Navy headquarters in a posture of covering the sky. Wood-style wood dragon technique. The huge wooden dragon reached out and patted it. Where the dragon's claws passed, the magma spewed out by Akainu was crushed like a match and extinguished. At the same time, another dragon claw was suppressed like a mountain. Great eruption. Akainu's complexion changed drastically, but his rabies virus prevented him from being coaxed. Facing the crushing dragon's claw, he took a good step, and was pushed into the ground by the dragon's claw together with his man and the magma fist. Akainu. Great eruption. That's it. Whitebeard jumped and stepped on the wooden dragon's head. Haki, the world's strongest man, was brought to ultimate at this moment. Zhang Chulin. 666, this wave of horror is full marks. Aizen Sosuke. It seems that from now on, we will have another master in the line of pretend. Acedes. After today, Whitebeard's nickname will be changed. The most pretentious man in the world. Advertisement. Witnessing Whitebeard's hard power pretend without any flamboyance, all the skirt friends expressed their admiration for Whitebeard's operation. Except for slightly wronging Emperor Yan in the lines, other aspects are impeccable. Whitebeard, Marineford is not a place where you can go wild. Just when Whitebeard, the newly promoted king who was personally approved by the king of the king, Aizen Sosuke, was dancing in the sky above Marineford, a sound like an explosion slammed into Whitebeard's eardrums. Come yet. Whitebeard looked calm on the surface, but when he heard this familiar voice, which was full of air and didn't feel old at all, his heart still became serious. Garp, how long has it been since we joined forces? Under the gaze of Whitebeard, two figures soared into the sky and stepped steadily on the top of two towering giant trees. One is Martial Sengoku, and the other is naturally Garp. And it's a younger version of Sengoku and Garp in their prime. Ever since the Golden Lion. Garp grinned, and then took out the long-lost pretend action. He grabbed the marine coat on his body with one hand, and threw it aside. It's been so long that I can hardly remember. Sengoku on the other side also made the same movement, reaching out and throwing the Martial's coat aside. Coming. It's this long-lost action. The familiar hero and Martial is coming back. Those marine generals who had witnessed Garp and Sengoku beating the Golden Lion in the past had sparkling eyes when they looked at them. 0 for flowers. They'll never forget Garp and Sengoku's nasty play, 2-on-1, and smashing Golden Lion to death. That familiar undressing action. Advertisement. That familiar voice. The recipe of this pretend has been the same for 10 years, and the taste is still the same, without any change. Don't call us mean. You know, that's how we always play. Sengoku stared at Whitebeard coldly. This can also be regarded as a manifestation of our recognition of your strength. After all, not everyone is eligible for this treatment. 0. You Whitebeard count. Garp wasn't the least bit embarrassed either. The biggest difference between Marine and Pirates is that most of the kings advocate heads up. As long as conditions permit, they will choose to suppress the enemy on their own. It is their stupidity, but their self-confidence in their own strength, or their courage that makes them despise everything. Even the notoriously vile Don Quixote Doflamingo. But Marine is different. Shoulder to shoulder, never alone. It is also this kind of different thinking that has created a large number of kings in the pirate faction, while there are only 2 kings in the Marine faction, Garp and Sengoku. Others, such as the 3 admirals, are all just generals, without the slightest appearance of a king. After waiting for so long, Laozi finally got this opportunity. When Whitebeard heard what Sengoku and Garp said, his eyes lit up. Not only did he not have the slightest bit of anger and aggrieved by being surrounded and beaten, but he almost couldn't help laughing. When he watched Luo Hao pretend just now, he had been staring at him for a long time. Now it was finally his turn to 6. Chapter 74 Uchiha Whitebeard. I feel sorry for Lord Madara. Advertisement. I won't call you mean. Whitebeard crossed his arms and looked down at Garp and Sengoku haughtily. Sengoku, this line is a bit familiar. Garp's heart skipped a beat. Do not know why. I have a bad feeling. Sengoku murmured. 2 against 1, just for fun. Whitebeard raised a few fingers, like Zhongfei embroidering flowers, and made a seal with great difficulty. That's called 2-on-1. Don't call me mean. Because you are the hero Garp and the Buddha Sengoku. As soon as the words fell, 4 burly wooden figures, 207, appeared beside him. In a short while, these wooden figures have turned into individual Whitebeards, which look so lifelike that it is difficult to distinguish them. He can do this trick. When Garp and Sengoku saw this scene, their hearts sank. No wonder it's so familiar, the feelings are just pretended by Luo Hao. But it is precisely because of familiarity that they are afraid. The scene of Luo Hao chasing the 2 admirals with a few shadow clones was still fresh in their memory. If Whitebeard's split is as powerful as Luo Hao's shadow clone, then it's really hard to say who will fight in groups. Zhang Chulin. Dad, you can dance to your heart's content. I will help you hold Madara's coffin board. Acedes. It seems that I have to find a chance to pretend to be such a DK. Aizen Sosuke. As expected of the Hokage dance king who can be as famous as me, even a man like Whitebeard can't help but attack him. Luo Hao. This Uchiha Whitebeard. I don't know why, but I suddenly feel a little sorry for Lord Madara. Advertisement. Seeing Whitebeard dance with Madara's lines so skillfully, even Luo Hao, who pretends to be a stranger, feels a little ashamed of Uchiha Madara. After all, if you say 1,000, say 10,000, the reason why Whitebeard first became Senju Whitebeard, and then became Uchiha Whitebeard is all caused by him. Garp, Sengoku, how are you? Do you like the gift I prepared for you? Whitebeard glanced at the 4 wood clone beside him. They immediately divided into 2 batches, facing Garp and Sengoku respectively. Isn't it just 4 pieces of rotten wood? It's just a matter of the old man's 2 punches. Garp insisted. Rotten wood. Then I have a question for you. Quote. A sneer played on Whitebeard's lips. What? Sengoku found that the bad feeling in his heart was getting stronger. Looking at Uchiha Whitebeard who seemed to be a different person in front of him, he suddenly felt that maybe even if Luo Hao left the summit war today, he and Garp would still be unable to win Fire Fist Ace, let alone this Uchiha Whitebeard. Would you like to use or not use wood style for these wood style clones of mine? Which is better? Whitebeard is really possessed by Lord Madara. After finally grabbing this opportunity to dance from Sengoku and Garp, he seemed as if he would never give up until he finished pretending to be Madara. No way. When Garp heard this, his heart began to sink to the bottom of the valley. Can these avatars also work? Sengoku's face turned as dark as the bottom of a pot in an instant. If these wood clones, like Luo Hao's shadow clone, can use all the abilities of the main body, then they are still fighting a ghost. Advertisement. It's normal to be beaten back by Whitebeard's group every minute. Those marine generals and soldiers who fought against the Whitebeard pirates again obviously heard what Whitebeard said. 0. Obviously Whitebeard hadn't played against Garp yet, but Marine's morale had already begun to decline steadily. Don't know how to choose? Then Laozi will help you choose. There was a small smile in Whitebeard's eyes. The 4 wood clone in front of him clapped their hands together at the same time. Wood-style wood dragon technique. In an instant, 4 smaller wooden dragons appeared in the sky above Marineford. But the so-called small is only relative. Each of the 4 smaller wooden dragons has a body length of more than 50 meters. They soar side by side above Garp's head, like mountains entrenched in the air, exuding an extremely oppressive feeling all the time. It can't be delayed any longer. Sengoku was keenly aware of the change in Marine's morale. These 5 wooden dragons must be shot down first. Garp and Sengoku looked at each other, and the melatonin pair reached a consensus in an instant, and then they broke out a Conqueror's Haki that shook the sky and was enough to affect the weather. Come on, let's hurt each other by 1.5. Facing the Conqueror's Haki of the 2, Whitebeard was fearless. Garp, Sengoku played Conqueror's Haki, and he also played Conqueror's Haki. In an instant, the 3 strands of Conqueror's Haki were released like 3 missiles detonated in the sky. 3 strands of Conqueror's Haki, 1 black, 1 white, and 1 yellow, are like real shock waves, launching a collision of vigor among kings. The clear sky became dark and thick with the Conqueror's collision. Naval Headquarters, which had already been torn apart by Luo Hao's palm, was shaking constantly, showing a precarious posture. The violent invisible air current turned into a 10th-level typhoon and instantly swept across the entire battlefield. Chapter 75 Laozi just wants to kill you too, or be beaten to death by you too. Advertisement. What's up with this Whitebeard? After losing the shock fruit, it's fine if your strength doesn't drop but drops, how did your spirit become stronger? Garp was shocked when he saw that Whitebeard was not completely suppressed by his and Sengoku's conquerors with his own strength, but barely resisted. He wouldn't be surprised if he was resisted by Whitebeard before. After all, Whitebeard regained his youth. Affected by the body and will, the king's spirit is naturally stronger than them who are old in the country. But now he, Sengoku, like Whitebeard, has regained his youth. Logically speaking, Whitebeard should be crushed under Conqueror's collision. Garp, look, Sengoku yelled suddenly and pointed to Whitebeard's face. He's young again. Garp looked around and found that under the cover of Conqueror's Haki, Whitebeard's face began to rejuvenate bit by bit. If Whitebeard just now looked like a 30-year-old, he is now a young man. The 4th Hokage must have helped him cheat. Garp, who came back to his senses, reacted immediately. Whitebeard went one step further to rejuvenate, and Tien was probably helped by Luo Hao. It works. 2 tubes of Hashirama cells went down, and Laozi's body became younger. Quote. Whitebeard naturally noticed the changes in his body. Except for Luo Hao, no one knew that when Garp and Sengoku injected Hashirama cells just now, he also injected Hashirama cells, and it was the second tube. 2 tubes of Hashirama cells come down, and the Buddha breaks a certain breaking point. Advertisement. His body was already transforming in the direction of a sage body. After breaking through the critical point, the speed of transformation into a sage body was not only faster, it even made his vitality soar a lot out of thin air. Come on, Garp, Sengoku, Laozi wants to beat you two to death today, or be beaten to death by you two. The further transformation of wood-style and sage body made Whitebeard burst out with confidence. Before Garp could make a move, he took the lead in controlling 4 wood clone to attack Garp and Garp. Whitebeard, there is only one fate for you. That is to be thrown to impel down by us. Garp and Sengoku exchanged glances, realizing that the Conqueror's Haki couldn't frighten Whitebeard, and they decisively showed their skills. One of them punched, the other turned into a giant Buddha, and attacked the 4 wood clone of Whitebeard at the same time. Just when Whitebeard was fighting with Garp and Sengoku in full swing, the other side kicked Ace away, and Luo Hao, who reignited the Summit War, had already flashed in front of Marshal D. Teach. Dark Cave Road. Marshal D. Teach saw Luo Hao disappearing suddenly shocked a lot. Fortunately, he had seen Luo Hao's elusive speed just now. Even though his mind was attracted by the shock fruit, he was actually holding his hand to the secret acupuncture point all the time. Almost the moment Luo Hao disappeared, his body surface released enough darkness to absorb everything. Not even light can escape. Luo Hao, who approached him with Flying Thunder God, was also placed in darkness. Ha ha ha. Laozi's dark fruit tastes good, right? No matter how powerful you are, it's useless in front of Laozi. Marshal D. Teach saw that Luo Hao was restrained by dark fruit's ability, he felt relieved, and immediately laughed wildly. Yes, advertisement. A flash of disdain flashed in Luo Hao's eyes. Even the aging Whitebeard can crush Marshal D. Teach in a flip after hitting the dark fruit, let alone him. Dare to look down on Laozi. A grim look appeared on Marshal D. Teach's face. He immediately raised his right hand, and a shot of dark water pulled Luo Hao, who was attracted by the darkness. Feel it. No matter how many abilities you have, you will never be able to use them in front of Laozi. Ah. Marshall D. Teach hadn't finished his smug words, but a ray of sunlight pierced his big belly. Ah. Why? You can still use the fruit ability. Marshall D. Teach's eyes widened in disbelief. The severe pain not only made 633's face contort into a ball, he even spoke intermittently. Who told you? I'm an ability user. Luo Hao drew out his right hand, and then held the Rachel and pushed it into Marshall Teach's abdomen. No. Marshall D. Teach yelled at Luo Hao in horror, while crazily casting Dark Fruit's ability to absorb damage. The ability of Dark Fruit to absorb damage is limited. If the injury is so serious that it far exceeds the speed at which the Dark Fruit can absorb the damage, then even the Dark Fruit's ability user will still die. Obviously, Luo Hao's 2 Rachels made Marshall Teach, the famous 4 emperors in the future, smell the breath of death. You want to replace Uchiha Whitebeard. HMPH. Without Shock Fruit, Whitebeard is still the strongest man in the world. But after your Dark Fruit doesn't work, you're just a despondent trash. Quote. Luo Hao held Reikiri in his right hand, and wiped it on the wrist where Marshall D. Teach cast dark water. Chapter 76 Blackbeard. I can call you Dad. Advertisement. Sheila. What? In the hands of Kakashi, Reikiri has cut even the thunder in the sky, let alone in the hands of Luo Hao. Facing his Reikiri, Marshall D. Teach's wrist was as fragile as tofu, and a complete palm fell to the ground in an instant. My hand. Marshall D. Teach raised his breath and broke his hands, wailing again and again. Isn't your hand here? Luo Hao glanced at the severed hand on the ground, and then scattered Reikiri in the palm. Please, let me go. Cowardly. Between life and death, Marshall D. Teach has no heroic attitude. He knelt down to Luo Hao just as he was being rubbed on the ground by Whitebeard. As for running, forget it. After seeing the Flying Thunder God technique, he didn't think he could outrun Luo Hao with his big belly, which was opened several holes by Reikiri. I'm not Whitebeard. You beg me, but it's no use. The arc of Luo Hao's mouth became more and more disdainful. I can call you Daddy. Like Whitebeard, call you Daddy. I also have Dark Fruit, which can help you capture ability users and help you take their abilities. With me here, you will definitely be able to create the most powerful pirates with abilities in the Grand Line. Marshall D. Teach begged with a flattering face. Advertisement. Just right, let's go together. Luo Hao smiled happily. So you are. Marshall D. Teach thought that Luo Hao was going to let him go, but just as he breathed a sigh of relief, a white mask burst out of Luo Hao's palm, which made him both greedy and fearful. Shock Fruit. Your favorite. Let you die under this ability, you should die without regrets. After Luo Hao finished speaking, he slammed Marshall D. Teach's cap with his right hand. With just one palm, Marshall D. Teach's cap and head exploded on the spot. Without even a chance to scream, he turned into a headless corpse. Although I can afford you to call me father, you are not qualified to be my son. After Luo Hao glanced at Marshall D. Teach's body, he suddenly disappeared in place. In less than half a second, when he came back again, there was already an extra person in his hand. Sniper of the Blackbeard Pirates, Van Oka. As for the rest of the Blackbeard Pirates, including the most powerful Shiryu of the Rain, they were all lying dead in a pool of blood at this time. What are you going to do to me? After being captured by Luo Hao, Van Oka just recovered from the shock caused by the death of Marshall D. Teach. He didn't expect that the captain he was after, Marshall D. Teach, was as weak as an ant in Luo Hao's hands. From shooting to being killed, it took only 5 seconds. Do what your captain promised me. As Luo Hao spoke, he stretched out a finger and stained a little of Marshall D. Teach's blood. What did the captain promise you? Van Oka froze. Didn't Marshall D. Teach have his cap blown by your palm? No matter what he promised you, he has no chance to help you do it. Advertisement. Your captain promised me before his death that he would capture capable people for me and create a pirate group of capable people. Now that he is dead, are you, as his crew member, going to help him fulfill his last wish? Luo Hao glanced at the darkness that quickly dissipated following the death of Marshall D. Teach, then made a mutter with his left hand, and pressed his right hand on Fan Aoka's head. Reanimation Jutsu. What? When he heard Luo Hao's words, Fan Aoka, whose heart was already shrouded in anxiety and fear, suddenly screamed. A pile of Buddha confetti and a dust-like substance swept across his body in an instant, covering his whole body. In the blink of an eye, molded by the dusty substance, he became a living Marshall D. Teach. Just different from the Marshall D. Teach before his death, the Marshall D. Teach transformed by Van Oka is like a dead body, lifeless. Laozi, is this it? Marshall D. Teach, who was resurrected by reanimation jutsu, was controlled by Luo Hao as soon as he woke up. Didn't Laozi be killed by you? Marshall D. Teach glared at Luo Hao angrily, and squeezed out a few words from his teeth with great difficulty. Yes, you were indeed killed by me just now. But considering that you died before you did what you promised me, so I, by Li, brought you back to life. Quote. Luo Hao's words made Marshall D. Teach's face full of horror and horror. Who the hell are you? This is definitely not Devil Fruit's ability. Marshall D. Teach is no idiot. Whether it's ignoring the dark water of Dark Fruit, or the posture of being resurrected at this time, all of them tell him that Luo Hao is not as capable as everyone thinks. You don't need to know this. You just need to finish the things you promised me but didn't finish. Quote. Luo Hao put his hand on the back of Marshall D. Teach's head. A talisman has been reflected in his brain, completely eradicating his consciousness. Chapter 77 Wishing you happiness, Kizaru. Advertisement. Go, Blackbeard, make good use of your remaining heat. Luo Hao patted Marshal D. Teach on the shoulder, and with a thought, he immediately flew backwards from the darkness covering all around. Many marine generals who have been focusing part of their attention on Luo Hao and the Blackbeard pirates saw the darkness dissipate. Except for Marshal D. Teach, who was blown away, all the other pirates were dead, and they immediately sucked take a breath. Blackbeard pirates, that's it. That's it. There's no reason. Huge battleship, evil King Katarine Diami, and Basque Jote, they are all vicious people locked in the 6th floor of the big submarine prison. 10 seconds. The Blackbeard pirates, who gathered so many vicious people, couldn't hold on for even 10 seconds in the hands of 4th Hokage. That man, how strong is he? Many marine executives were still troubled by those big pirates who ran out from the 6th floor of Impel Down. Unexpectedly, in the blink of an eye, whether it was 677 Shiryu of the Rain who betrayed Marine, or the huge battleship who escaped from the prison, the dead were already dead on the spot. As the only B********* D Blackbeard left. This 4th Hokage finally did a good thing. Sengoku, who was fighting fiercely with Whitebeard, felt that all the Blackbeard pirates had been wiped out except Marshal D. Teach, and felt relieved. After all, Marine paid a lot of casualties in order to catch these vicious people who ran out from Impel Down LV. 6. Under the attention of many Marines and pirates, Marshal D. Teach, who flew to the center of the battlefield, climbed up again, but did not escape, but raised his right hand to Luo Hao again. Teach, this guy is looking for death. Be it Diamond Chaozi, Kizaru and the others, they sneered secretly when they saw that Marshal D. Teach dared to continue to attack Luo Hao. In their eyes, Marshal D. Teach is no different from a dead man. Advertisement. But no one expected that this Marshal D. Teach, who was regarded as dead by both the Whitebeard pirates and Marine, suddenly made an astonishing feat. Dark water. Marshal D. Teach raised his head high and roared. A circle of dark Uzumaki suddenly burst out from his right hand. What the hell is this? Unexpectedly, his dark water did not hit Luo Hao, but pointed directly at Kizaru not far away, who was fighting with Margao and making fun of Margao at the same time. Facing the sudden sneak attack by Marshal D. Teach, Kizaru was sucked by the dark water on the spot. The fruit ability disappeared. The moment he was touched by Marshal D. Teach's right hand, Kizaru's monkey face swollen by his beard was full of horror for a moment. I'll make your mouth dirty. Seeing this, Marco was not surprised. Instead, he seized the opportunity and leapt at Kizaru. Go away. Kizaru is Kizaru after all. Although he is the most dependent on the fruit ability among the 3 admirals, it does not mean that his strength is weak. On the contrary, whether it's swordsmanship or physical skills, Haki can also rank in the forefront in the Grand Line where there are many masters. When Fire Fist Ace faced Blackbeard's dark water, he suffered. Now it's Kizaru, and aside from the initial shock of the loss of power, he calms down in the blink of an eye. Sensing Margao's murderous intent rushing towards him from behind, he decisively raised his hand and stamped on Marshal D. Teach's left hand, and the powerful armament Haki spewed out of MH like a shock wave. Advertisement. With a bang, a hole was opened in Marshal D. Teach's chest on the spot. Want to FK me? A disdainful smile appeared on Kizaru's face. In Grand Line, he was the only one with the shining fruit ability to slay people, so there was no time for him to be slapped. But in the next second, the smile on his face froze. Marshal D. Teach, who was pierced through his entire left chest by his armament Haki, acted as if nothing had happened, not only sucked his body firmly with dark water, but at the same time released a storm-like darkness with his other hand to firmly suction Kizaru. Happiness to you, Kizaru. Margao, who came through the air, did not launch a fierce attack on Kizaru immediately. Instead, when Kizaru lost the shining fruit and his body was trapped by darkness, he threw out a seastone handcuff and locked Kizaru's neck. Oops. Kizaru's expression changed suddenly. Being sucked by dark water, at most, it is just unable to use the sparkling fruit ability. But being locked by seastone, a strong sense of weakness and powerlessness swept over his whole body immediately. Even though he is as strong as Admiral, facing the weakness brought by seastone, it still makes him completely weak. Kizaru. The sudden occurrence of such an accident on the battlefield really shocked everyone. However, as Admiral Aokiji, he reacted in a very short time, and immediately rushed to rescue Kizaru. Where to go? Although Ace, who had just been rescued, was also shown by the joint operation of Marshal D. Teach and Margao, knowing that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to kill Kizaru, he immediately dragged Aokiji down. Chapter 78 A Generation of Macho, Kizaru's Death. Advertisement. Akainu. Facing Ace's relentless entanglement, Aokiji couldn't defeat Ace in an instant. At this time, he immediately thought of Akainu, who was released from the leash by Sengoku. But when he looked at the deep pit printed by the wooden dragon's paw, and found that Akainu was still asleep in the pit like a sleeping beauty, he felt a little bit desperate, but he couldn't help but feel a little bit in his heart. Yelling. The D Sakazuki is usually so tough, how could he wilt at such a critical moment? If you don't get up again, if Kizaru hangs up later, you will be able to buy this account. Quote. If Akainu could sense Aokiji's blame at this time, he would definitely jump up and curse. Kizaru dies, but Laozi will never take the blame. From the beginning of the team fight, Laozi carried the highest damage all the way and played the highest output. Why can't he be sent back to the spring now, and he has to take the blame for Kizaru's death? Sengoku, save him. Garp, who was fighting Whitebeard, sensed Kizaru's situation and immediately spoke to Sengoku. Although he has regained his youth, he can't beat Whitebeard who has Senju Hashirama's wood style and Uchiha Madara's forceful blessing, but Whitebeard can't beat it in a short time. It is good. Sengoku just wanted to get out of the fight, but Whitebeard stepped on a wooden dragon and slapped it down. Go away. Sengoku saw that Whitebeard stopped him from saving Kizaru. It was too late. I saw his already tall Buddha body rising to more than 20 meters against the wind, and raising his hand was a powerful shock wave containing armament haki. Facing him, the Marine Marshal's wrath erupted. Whitebeard was shrouded in the shock wave along with the wooden dragon. Something's wrong. Advertisement. Garp felt uneasy when he saw this scene. Although the frequency of his fights with Whitebeard is not as frequent as that of One Piece, he has heard a little about Whitebeard's style of play. That's a tough guy too. Fighting against people is tough. What the hell is this Whitebeard doing? Even Garp senses something is wrong, let alone Sengoku, a Japanese bearded old lover. When Whitebeard was hit by his blaster, his eyes were fixed on the center area covered by the blaster. When the shock wave he shot dissipated, apart from a dilapidated wooden dragon, there was only a piece of broken wood placed on the wooden dragon's head. As for Whitebeard, he's long gone. Not good. Sengoku suddenly turned around and looked in the direction of Kizaru. Looking at it, he saw a scene that made his eyes tear. A towering giant tree next to Kizaru suddenly surged, and then Whitebeard's burly body came out of the trunk. Kizaru. Whitebeard first grinned at Sengoku and Garp who were in the distance, and then, under Kizaru's terrified expression, swung the supreme sharp knife and slashed down angrily. Stop. Garp. Sengoku rushed over anxiously trying to stop Whitebeard. But although the two of them are fast, they have neither time-space ninjutsu nor Kizaru's speed. No matter how fast they are, they can't beat Whitebeard's knife. No. Whitebeard, get the hell out of here. Kizaru looked at Kong Yunchi, who was falling headfirst, and struggled excitedly. But the impact of Seastone's addition plus Martial D teach two people desperately pressed him to the ground. Advertisement. Facing Kong Yunchi, he could only be like a prisoner who was sentenced to death in ancient times. 0 for flowers. Kneeling on the ground, he watched helplessly as the executioner's butcher's knife fell towards his neck. Bang. With a flash of the knife, Kaibing was cut in half immediately. Although Whitebeard is not a great swordsman, he has extremely terrifying power, and armament haki surpasses the great swordsman. The power of this knife is even worse than that of the great swordsman's sword. Although Kizaru has already displayed armament haki, which has evolved into a substantial defense, but in front of Whitebeard's Kong Yunchi, his armament haki is as weak as a piece of paper. Click. Sengoku froze. Garp fell silent. The battlefield, where the sound of gunfire, sword clashes, and fighting resounded continuously, suddenly became silent because of Kizaru's wretched head that rolled down at Whitebeard's feet. All this because of a generation of macho. Admiral Kizaru moved his head and died on the spot. Kizaru. Admiral, is he dead? It's fake. Maybe Kizaru Admiral is just teasing the enemy. That's right. This is also Kizaru Admiral's usual method when dealing with pirates. The Ghost Spider and other marine generals stared blankly at Kizaru who was decapitated. At this moment, they really want to see that this is Kizaru teasing them. Just like when catching pirates in the past, I hope to let the pirates cut him in half, cut off his head, and then use the ability of the flashing fruit to recover instantly. Unfortunately, they stared straight at Kizaru's headless body for several seconds, except for the blood that flowed all over the ground. They didn't see Kizaru stand up again at all. Seeing this scene, the Ghost Spider and other generals' hearts gradually sank to the bottom of the valley, and at the same time, they also knew that their naval headquarters' generation of strong men. Kizaru, is it really gone forever? Chapter 79 The Sengoku of Buddha. Dewey Tianlong, Prajna Ba Makong. Advertisement. Thief ha ha ha. Kizaru's ability is Laozi's. Just as everyone was in shock over Kizaru's death, Marshal D Teach suddenly let out a trademark laugh. Immediately afterwards, under the gaze of many eyes, he suddenly waved his hand, and a huge black cloth immediately covered Kizaru's body and head together, and then he pouted his buttocks, trying to get into the black cloth. Audacity. What do you want to do with Kizaru's corpse? I don't think you are human. Today, I, Sengoku, want you to pay for Kizaru's death. Although Sengoku didn't know what Marshal D Teach meant by doing this, but hearing his wild laughter, 007, vaguely knew that once Marshal D Teach succeeded, it would definitely not be good for Marine. What a good thing. Thinking of this, he, transformed into a golden giant Buddha, brazenly raised his right palm, as if a majestic Tianlong, Shazang Jizang, Prajna Buddhas, Prajna Ba Makong, wanting to show Marshal D Teach, the monstrous evildoer in his true form. Boom. But before Sengoku's Dewey Tianlong hit, and before Marshal D Teach completely penetrated into the black cloth, a whip leg as fast as lightning penetrated most of the body into Marshal D Teach and the black cloth pumped out. Fourth Hokage. Seeing this scene, Sengoku, who had already raised his right hand and was about to shoot a shockwave at Whitebeard, couldn't help being stunned. He really didn't expect that at this critical moment, Luo Hao, the fourth Hokage, stepped forward and helped the Marine. But following Luo Hao's actions in the next second, he reacted. Where Luo Hao was helping him, he was clearly helping himself. Thank you, Blackbeard. After kicking Marshal D Teach away, Luo Hao immediately dodges into Blackberry. Of course, he pays great attention to style, and naturally he will not stick his A in public like Marshal D Teach and get into the black cloth. Advertisement. He jumped into the space directly with Flying Thunder God. Ah, my shining fruit. After Marshal D. Teach got up from the ground, he immediately let out a mournful roar. The cry was really sad for those who heard it, and tears for those who heard it. What's wrong? Isn't the shining fruit Kizaru Admiral's ability? The Marines and the pirates, who were fighting against each other, looked dumb when they saw this scene. None of them understood why Marshal D. Teach had such a sudden look on his face. Not to mention that Kizaru is dead. Even if Kizaru is not dead, this shining fruit is not your turn, right? Only some people with clever minds and those who heard Marshal D. Teach's hearty laughter just vaguely guessed what was going on. Could it be that he? Sengoku stared fixedly at the black cloth in front of him, as if he had guessed something. At this moment, he even had the urge to hit the black cloth with a shock wave. But as soon as this thought arose, he suppressed it by himself. Not to mention Whitebeard and Marco, who were staring at him in front of the black cloth, just talking about the abilities that Luo Hao has shown so far. He has no confidence in being able to seriously injure the other party. Sengoku, what should I do? Garp, who was standing shoulder to shoulder with Sengoku, couldn't help asking. Like Sengoku, he has already vaguely guessed the reason why Marshal D. Teach suddenly attacked Kizaru, and also guessed what it means for Luo Hao to walk into Blackberry. But before Sengoku could open his mouth, Luo Hao, who had just disappeared in place using Flying Thunder God, had reappeared in the eyes of the world. Advertisement. At the same time, the black cloth covering Kizaru's body also disappeared. 0. Kizaru still maintains his macho death method, decapitated. It looked the same as before, but Sengoku and the others could clearly perceive that Luo Hao had become even scarier. Damn, UB ******** D not only ruined my pirate group, robbed my shock fruit, but now also robbed me of my shining fruit. When Marshal D. Teach glared at Luo Hao, he was like a beast devouring people, his face full of viciousness. Really, the function of that piece of black cloth is to help people capture the fruit ability of the capable person during his lifetime. It's a pity, this Blackbeard has calculated thousands of times, and in the end not only the shock fruit, but also the shock fruit was obtained by Luo Hao. Hearing his words, Sengoku, Garp, Aokiji and others completely confirmed their guesses. In their view, this is the reason why Whitebeard and Margot cooperated with Marshal D. Teach. Whitebeard wants to kill Kizaru and reduce Marine's high-end combat power. And Marshal D. Teach is purely focusing on Kizaru's ability, hoping to use it to fight against Luo Hao 0.3. Thank you so much, Blackbeard. You gave me the most advanced ability in Logia Devil Fruit. Luo Hao glanced at Marshal D. Teach, and directly gave an extremely touching acting lesson to all the members in the skirt chat. Zhang Chulin. This pot. Blackbeard is so steady. Acedes. As the pirate world going to have a pot king? Aizen Sosuke. Wherever Hokage goes, the pot king haunts. Whitebeard. Blackbeard, go all the way. As far as taking the blame, the circle originally called you the strongest. Chapter 80 wasting half a life, finally became a pot king. Advertisement. Seeing Luo Hao's super personal ability in self-writing, directing and acting, while they admired from the bottom of their hearts, they also felt sorry for Marshal D. Teach. Shock fruit was robbed, pirates are destroyed, even he was killed. What's even worse is that after his death, he was still restless, and was immediately resurrected by Luo Hao as a tool man. Although this Marshal D. Teach wasted half of his life, and finally became the name of pirate world, a generation of pot king, but the bitterness he paid for it behind the scenes made Zhang Chulin and other skirt friends cry. Damn fellow, I didn't expect that I, Blackbeard, would fall into your hands again and again for half my life. Marshal D. Teach stared at Luo Hao with an ugly face, and at the same time his feet stepped back without a trace. Sengoku, if I fight with him, it shouldn't count as meddling in the summit war, right? 30 Luo Hao ignored Marshal D. Teach, who is a pot king and a tool man, but turned his head and asked the angry Sengoku. You, don't count. Sengoku thought of Luo Hao's move to kick Ace away just now, and he was about to lose his temper. It can be imagined that the fierce Kizaru just died on their side. If they start a team with Luo Hao at this time, it will definitely be extremely unfavorable to Marine's situation. After turning all kinds of thoughts in his mind, he finally chose to swallow his anger and sit and watch the fight between Luo Hao and Marshal D. Teach. It's fine if you don't count. Hearing this, Luo Hao looked at Marshal D. Teach calmly. Teach, have you figured out how to die? This look made Marshal D. Teach tense all over. How did Laozi offend you? You have already died once, you have to kill Laozi again. Advertisement. Every move and every word of Marshal D. Teach, who is bound by consciousness, is controlled by Luo Hao. At this moment, he could only roar wildly in his heart. In one day, he died twice in a row. Fortunately, no one knows about this except the members of the skirt chat. Otherwise, whether his Marshal D. Teach can be immortalized in the history of the Grand Line is not to be said for the time being, but for his behavior of dying twice in one day, it is very likely that his name will be passed down through the ages. Laozi is a dark fruit capable user. No one can kill me. Not even your fourth Hokage. No matter what he was thinking in his heart, Marshal D. Teach could only cooperate with Luo Hao to continue the final scene of Guo Sheng. Not always. Luo Hao raised his right hand, and slowly gathered his 5 fingers into a fist. Is the sun going to die again? Seeing this action, Marshal D. Teach suddenly became nervous. He knew that he would be thrown away after he was used up as a pot king and tool man. Although he had died once, he still felt unavoidable fear when he died again. Don't be nervous, you won't notice the pain. Marshal D. Teach had just heard such a voice coming from his ear, and he was already swallowed up by the golden shadow of fists all over the sky. This also caused him to not be able to hear the second sentence at all. Because the process from birth to death is only a moment. Luo Hao lowered his fist slowly. After the golden light and smoke dissipated, Marshal D. Teach, the Pot King, seemed to be smashed into atoms by Luo Hao's fist power, without even a trace left in the world. Advertisement. This punch, or these countless punches, was also dumbfounded by everyone. Including masters like Sengoku and Garp who stepped on the top of the grand line. As this, really a shining fruit? I can't see how he punches at all. I just saw that as soon as he made a fist, Teach was covered by countless golden fist shadows. The shiny fruit that Kizaru ate before is not fake. Not only Sengoku, Dracula Mihawk and Shichibukai also stared in shock. It's not that they don't know the flashing fruit. On the contrary, due to Kizaru's outstanding appearance, as well as his lackluster face and personality, almost all the powerhouses of the three major forces of the Grand Line, Naval Headquarters, Four Emperors, and Shichibukai have seen his shining fruit. They all agreed from the bottom of their hearts. The shining fruit is indeed Alogia's highest level devil fruit. But it was definitely not as terrifying as what they saw from Luo Hao's punch now. Garp, did you see that? How many punches did he throw in 1 second? Seeing Luo Hao put down his fist, Sengoku couldn't help asking Garp, who was also stunned. Cannot see. Facing him, I can only use observation haki to predict and dodge in advance. If you take it hard, you can only be beaten. Garp forced a bitter smile. After regaining his youth, he originally thought he could compete with Luo Hao. But after witnessing Luo Hao's punch, his thought was extinguished. He is also a person with the ability of shining fruit, even if he is old, he can still beat Kizaru. But in the face of Luo Hao, a newly promoted shining fruit ability user, even if he regains his youth, he still can't bring up the idea of confrontation. Chapter 81. What kind of boxing technique are you doing? Advertisement. It's just astonishing. I just discovered today that the glitter fruit can still be used in this way. Is Kizaru not able to use this shining fruit, or is 4th Hokage too strong? Sengoku said in disbelief. I was already suspecting that Kizaru might have eaten a fake glitter fruit. Garp shook his head. In fact, they both knew it well. The shiny fruit that Kizaru ate must be licensed, it cannot be faked. The reason why there is such a big gap is purely because the capable person has changed. Light-like punching speed and frequency, coupled with extremely powerful physique and physical skills, have just created Luo Hao's amazing Grand Line light speed punch. It's that simple, but it is precisely because it is so simple that it can be understood at a glance that Sengoku and others are even more shocked. Father, what kind of boxing is he doing? Margao stared blankly at Luo Hao for a while, then turned his head and asked Whitebeard hard. Facing Marco's inquiry, Whitebeard did not speak, but opened the skirt chat silently. Whitebeard. Boy Luo, what kind of law are you doing? Luo Hao. Tianma meteor fist. Learn about it. Zhang Chulin. The kingly way of warfare. Light speed fist. Boss Luo, tell me honestly, did you go to the world of Saint Seiya before you traveled to the world of Hokage? Aizen Sosuke. What is a saint? Zhang Chulin. It's a group of monsters that can move and fight at the speed of light, and their basic configuration is the speed of light fist. A seeds. Advertisement. Zhang Chulin. For example, if you can use your fingers or your own fist to hit hundreds of millions of light speed fists in an instant, this is a golden saint. Aizen Sosuke. FK. With Billion's clear explanation, everyone in the skirt understood the horror of the saint warrior, and at the same time deeply felt the horror of Luo Hao's punch. His goal has always been the shining fruit. No wonder he invited the golden supporting actor Blackbeard to participate in this drama that he wrote, directed and acted in. It turns out that he thought of this usage of the flashing fruit a long time ago. After witnessing Luo Hao's punch through the live broadcast, Zhang Chulin shook her head dejectedly. He knew that after this battle, no one would be able to shake Luo Hao's status as Qunchaoyi brother. No way, just use it like Luo Hao can develop the flash fruit to the small universe of the seventh sense, and no one can beat it. In his opinion, let alone Hogyoku Aizen, even the sage of six paths might not be able to defeat Luo Hao even if he is alive. 5 elements ninjutsu, time-space ninjutsu, shock fruit, and shining fruit, the gap is getting bigger and bigger. No, I have to move faster. Not just Hogyoku, but the development of skirt chat. Not only Zhang Chulin felt slumped, but even the determined Aizen Sosuke frowned at this time. He found that the more he understood Luo Hao, the more he felt the gap between him and him. Especially this journey through the world of pirates has widened the distance between them again. Well, what I have to do is done. What are you supposed to do? Using the ability of the flashing fruit to stage a wave of kingly warfare in Saint Seiya, after killing Marshal D. Teach in the dirty state in seconds, Luo Hao first stretched his waist, and then said to Sengoku and others who were still in a daze. Why are you staring at me? You hit yours. Hearing this, Sengoku, who recovered from his stunned state, was furious when he thought of Kizaru's death. Advertisement. Whitebeard. At this moment, he didn't bother to delve into the twists and turns, let alone think about why Luo Hao possessed both the Thunderbolt fruit and the flashing fruit. Resurrected, he grabbed Garp immediately, then transformed into a golden giant Buddha again, and sent a wave of mighty dragons towards Whitebeard. No wonder Sengoku was so angry. For a long time, Naval Headquarters has not spared no effort to promote Marine 3 Admiral. After years of marketing work, it was hard to leave such a well-known impression on the world. Marine Admiral equals world government's highest combat power. But now, the highest combat power was actually beaten to death on the spot. Admiral, the Jinxie brand, will inevitably lose countless fans from then on. In Sengoku's view, such a huge impact can only be restored by hammering Whitebeard to death. It's really hard to keep you this time, Whitebeard. Not to mention Sengoku, even Garp, who is laughing and joking, has a rough expression. Obviously, he also knew how much Admiral's death would affect Naval Headquarters, and even the world government. Gu la la la. If you want to fight the one who has money, you can fight. Do you really think that Laozi is afraid that you will fail? When Whitebeard saw Kizaru's death, even Garp was angry, but he sneered. Kizaru is dead, you. Then when Ace died, why didn't you, a grandfather, do anything? This is war, you think it's a child's play. Whitebeard strode forward, swung Kong Yunchi with his left hand to meet Sengoku's Dewei Tianlong, and turned his right hand into a log to meet Garp's iron fist. With one blow from the three of them, a berserk airflow spread across Marineford immediately. Marineford, which was already crumbling, split into 4 island plates in an instant, and then gradually opened up the distance from each other along the current, gradually forming 4 independent islands. Chapter 82 Doflamingo. I want to protect Konoha. Advertisement. The confrontation between Whitebeard, Garp and Sengoku ignited the flames of the summit war again. The death of Kizaru and Luo Hao's punch stopped the fight, and the two sides fought a team battle again. In the battlefield, except for a few Shichibukai such as Dracula Mahawk and Don Quixote Doflamingo who were paddling, everyone else played real fire. Even after successfully escaping from prison, Crocodile, who wanted to attack Whitebeard in a sneak attack, was pinned down by Whitebeard's avatar and rubbed on the ground for a while. Somehow, he actually met Marine. Not only that, but he didn't know if he was thinking about some irreversible past when he was fighting with Marine, and he actually got really angry. Compared with those members of the Whitebeard pirates, he has more experience in fighting. He stopped Ghost Spider, Flying Squirrel, and Huo Shaoshan Vice Admiral by himself. Seeing his hard work, people who didn't know thought he was the son of Whitebeard. Sand fruit seems to be good too. Do you want to use Impure World Reincarnation to summon Blackbeard again and show off again? 957 inches. Crocodile put so much effort into showing off his operations on the battlefield, which naturally attracted the attention of Luo Hao, who had nothing to do and stood aside to enjoy the summit war. But Blackbeard was crushed by me just now. If he is resurrected at this time, what should we do? Watching Crocodile throw out a cloud of sandstorms, and burst out a desert diamond sword, Luo Hao couldn't help thinking of writing, directing and acting himself. Zhang Chulin. Boss Luo, are you eyeing Lao Sha's ability again? Luo Hao. Do I look like such a greedy person? Acetus. You are. Luo Hao. Even if I really am, I can only watch but not do it. After all, I already have 2 kinds of devil fruit. Zhang Chulin. Ghost knows if you, a time traveler, have an alien physique, which can hold 3 kinds of devil fruit. Aizen Sosuke. Dada, you can use distinguished heavenly gods to take Lao Sha back for your own use, which is equivalent to getting his abilities. Luo Hao. Frankly speaking, I was in a hurry to go out this time, and I forgot to bring the distinguished heavenly gods. Just when Luo Hao said no to the members in the skirt, but was secretly thinking about whether to let the gold medal supporting role of Blackbeard out of the dirt, and then play Crocodile, a gloomy laughter suddenly came to him in the ear. Advertisement. Fufurfur. Your Excellency Hokage, weren't you invited by Whitebeard to come here to help? Why, I don't think you seem to care much about Whitebeard's life. He looked up, and suddenly saw Don Quixote Doflamingo walking over with a step that he didn't recognize. You are still a Shichibukai who was forcibly summoned by Marine. Aren't you paddling too? Luo Hao saw that Don Quixote Doflamingo was neither fighting in a group nor squatting in the grass, but instead ran to him, so he temporarily let go of the idea of reincarnation Blackbeard Impure World. I can't wait for Marine to lose. But you are different. You see, Whitebeard is starting to go downhill. Don Quixote Doflamingo glanced at Whitebeard in the distance who was gradually being overwhelmed by Sengoku and Garp. You are so straightforward, but with your paddling skills, aren't you afraid that Sengoku will deal with you afterwards? Now it's not like before. Sengoku, who has regained his youth, not only straightens his back, but also speaks more in the world government. If he is determined to deal with you, your identity may not be able to keep you. Quote. Luo Hao looked at Don Quixote Doflamingo with a half smile. So I'm here to find an organization that can protect me. A haze flashed in Don Quixote Doflamingo's eyes. Luo Hao's words reminded him of a person. Don Quixote Rocinante, Sengoku's adopted son, but also his younger brother. Oh, advertisement. Luo Hao stared at Don Quixote Doflamingo playfully. Fangfo wanted to see what tricks he was playing. Whitebeard's ability to control wood, and the Hashirama cells you injected him should not be devil fruit abilities. Don Quixote Doflamingo said firmly, so what, are you going to denounce me to the 5 elders? Luo Hao shrugged, looking very indifferent. If Billion was the one who took out such a good thing as Hashirama cells, it would really be caught by Don Quixote Doflamingo. After all, everyone is innocent, but pregnant is guilty. No, I just want to join Konoha and become a member of Hidden Village just like Whitebeard. Don Quixote Doflamingo said surprisingly, you want to join Konoha? Think about it clearly, once you join Konoha, you will have to protect the Hidden Village as a ninja, even at the cost of sacrificing your own life. Hearing this, Luo Hao couldn't help but look at Don Quixote Doflamingo a few more times. Swear to protect Konoha, Don Quixote Doflamingo said without a hint of joke. Luo Hao, Zhang Chulin, Acedes, Aizen Sosuke. 8883. Chapter 83. Don't hurt your skirt friend by accident. Advertisement. At this moment, Luo Hao was silent. He knew that even if he used Hayden this time, he couldn't clear up the suspicion. No matter how much he confronted the people in his skirt and clarified that he did not bring the distinguished heavenly gods to the pirate world, no one would believe him. After all, it is not Uchiha Itachi, let alone Uchiha Shisui, who said the 4 words of protecting Konoha, but Don Quixote Doflamingo who doesn't even know what Konohagakure is. The ambitious, downtrodden Shichibukai, heavenly Yaksha. You said you didn't use distinguished heavenly gods on him, how could that one who was so ambitious and ideal suddenly come to you and call Hokage-sama, and also said that he would join Konoha Susumu and guard Konoha to death? Master Hokage, don't you believe me? Seeing that Luo Hao was silent, Don Quixote Doflamingo thought he didn't believe him. Got it, you haven't even agreed to it yet, you even called Hokage-sama. When you shout like this, does it matter whether I believe it or not? My innocence has been uttered by you, Lord Hokage. Ming, I want to ask, do you know a man named Uchiha Itachi? After a long silence, Luo Hao finally spoke. Do not know. Don Quixote Doflamingo said, what about Uchiha Shisui? Luo Hao asked again without giving up. Advertisement. I haven't heard of it either. I know my request is a bit abrupt to Hokage-sama, and it will be hard for you to believe me for a while, but I really want to join Konoha and become a glorious Konoha shinobi with all my heart. Quote. Don Quixote Doflamingo emphasized again. Hearing this, Luo Hao covered his forehead weakly. Got it. I have never heard of Uchiha Itachi or Uchiha Shisui. This also prevents Shisui and Itachi from other Hokage worlds from traveling to the pirate world and casting distinguished heavenly gods on Don Quixote Doflamingo. In this way, he, the 4th Hokage, will also be the king of the pot. Blamed for casting distinguished heavenly gods on Don Quixote Doflamingo for no reason. Master Hokage, please give me some time. After the war between Whitebeard and Marine is over, I will definitely prove to you that everything I said is true and not just bragging. After Don Quixote Doflamingo vowed to leave a word, he returned to the battlefield on the pace of disbelief, and then threw himself into the war again waving one by one silk thread. It's just that anyone with a discerning eye can see that the number of casualties caused by his silk threads to Marine is much higher than that of the Whitebeard pirates. Judging by his posture, it is obvious that he is determined to defect to the 5-star home of Hokage Hidden Village, and work hard for 4th Hokage. Zhang Chulin. You still said you didn't use distinguished heavenly gods on Don Quixote Doflamingo. Zhang Chulin. Look at him raising the knife and falling with the knife, and falling with the knife. He chopped Marine as hard as he wanted, directly from the south of Marineford to the north. Acedes. Emotionally, you even quietly gouged out Uchiha Shisui's eyes, and then took them with you. Aizen Sosuke. It turns out that distinguished heavenly gods is not only useful for people in the Hokage world, but also works for people who don't have chakra in the pirate world. Advertisement. Whitebeard. Boy Luo, use your distinguished heavenly gods, don't accidentally hurt your skirt friend, hit Laozi. Watching the conversations of all skirt friends, even Whitebeard said so, Luo Hao, who has been in skirt chat for many years, was speechless for a while. Zero asked for flowers, Zero. What else can he say? Did he tell the guys in the skirt that he knew what kind of madness Don Quixote Doflamingo was going through and suddenly pledged his allegiance to him? He was sure that if such words came out, not to mention Billion who was familiar with Don Quixote Doflamingo, even Aizen Sosuke and Acedes would not believe it. On the other hand, after Whitebeard replied in the skirt chat, he never had a chance to speak again. Facing Sengoku and Garp, who were fighting more and more fiercely, as if they were about to send him to meet Kizaru, he would find it extremely difficult to resist their attacks, not to mention spending time chatting with them. Zero. Too bad, Dad can't bear it anymore. Although Margao not far away was fighting Aokiji, part of his attention never left Whitebeard. Seeing that Whitebeard's situation was getting worse, he suddenly became anxious. Father, why don't we retreat first? Anyway, Ace also saved them, so there is no need to confront them head-on. Quote. Diamond George couldn't help but propose to Whitebeard after barely warding off Dracula Mahawk's knife. Although one of the 3 admirals, Kizaru, was killed by Luo Hao, Marine is still superior to the Whitebeard pirates in terms of high-end combat power and overall combat power. Especially after those CPO members also joined the battlefield, the situation of the Whitebeard pirates became even worse. If it wasn't for Don Quixote Doflamingo's distinguished heavenly gods, in his invisible body, suddenly swearing allegiance to Luo Hao, and then fighting against the Whitebeard pirates on the surface, but constantly, accidentally injuring, allies secretly, the casualties of the Whitebeard pirates would have been even more severe. Tell. Chapter 84. You are so terrifying, I have to wait Tianlong. Advertisement. Yes, Whitebeard, you might as well listen to your good son's advice. Just run with them. When Sengoku saw that Diamond Chaozi and others were urging Whitebeard to retreat, he immediately said to Whitebeard in a strange manner. The Summit War has been fought until now, and their Marines have just gained the upper hand after paying such heavy casualties. If Whitebeard slips away at this time, they will lose a lot. That's right. If you save someone, you should run away. At most, I will act as if I have never heard that sentence. Laozi just wants to kill you too, or be killed by you too. Garp followed suit with a sneer. Obviously, he could accept that Ace was rescued, but he couldn't sit back and watch Whitebeard escape unscathed. After all, so many people died in Marine, even the hunk Kizaru died. As the hero of Marine, he had to give the dead Marine an explanation for everything he said. Damn it, they are so aggressive to Dad. When Marco, Diamond Chowzi and others heard this, they all said badly to themselves. Sure enough, in the next second they heard the most worrying and least willing to hear words. Gu la la la. Sengoku, Garp, you two old guys, don't excite Laozi. There is never a time when Laozi's words don't count. Whitebeard let out a smirk, and clapped his hands together. The ground beneath the three of them shook violently. This guy has a new trick. Garp's eyelids twitched violently when he saw Whitebeard perform this signature clapping motion. He knows. Every time Whitebeard does this it means Senju Whitebeard is at it again. Laozi doesn't show his whole cards, you two old guys don't know what it means to be so scary. Advertisement. You are ready to accept it. Under the roar of Whitebeard, a burly wooden golem with a body height of more than 100 meters, even much taller than the tallest building in Naval Headquarters rose from the ground. Wood-style wooden golem jutsu. As soon as the wooden golem came out, the mighty and majestic momentum even overwhelmed Sengoku who had transformed into a golden Buddha. There's something about this wooden man. Garp looked solemnly at the wooden golem in front of him. Don't panic, hold on tight. Isn't it just a wooden man? We can even smash the wooden dragon just now. Do you still need to be afraid of this mere wooden man? Sengoku hastily said to Garp. This team battle has reached the most critical moment. Attitude is the most important. You can't wave, let alone cowardly, and you can't panic. Blockhead. Senju Whitebeard sneered when he heard this. Not seeing any movement from him, wooden golem has raised his heavy, huge, but unexpectedly swift arm, and punched Sengoku condescendingly. Big Buddha shock. Sengoku's head is up to the sky, his feet are on the ground, and he almost points to the sky and the ground and shouts to Wei Tianlong. Get down for Laozi. Facing the shock wave bursting out from Sengoku's palm like a raging sea, wooden golem suppressed it with a single punch. Immediately afterwards, Wood's fist carried the shock wave, and a punch covered his upper body while Sengoku watched in shock. With a loud noise, a huge impact like the explosion of a missile suddenly swept across a radius of several kilometers. Advertisement. The nearby Marines and pirates didn't even have the ability to resist, and were blown away in an instant. Sengoku. Garp saw that Sengoku was buried in the ground in a big shape by wooden golem's punch. He flew up quickly, and struck wooden golem with his iron fist, which was only the size of a normal person but contained the power to penetrate the atmosphere. Point 0. Wooden golem, shaped by wood-style chakra, was extremely powerful in defense, but he was punched by Garp and half of his body was broken on the spot. Whitebeard, you're done. With a thought, Sengoku displayed the awakening ability of the Buddha form. He was punched by wooden golem just a second ago and even the golden paint on the Buddha's body faded, not only quickly stood up again, but the muscles of his whole body shook slightly, and he painted the golden Buddha's body again as if the Buddha had brought his own paint. Gotta shine. You've run out of cards. It's a pity that the old man didn't realize what terror is like. Garp approached Whitebeard with a smirk. It's not right. That's obviously not how the script was written. Once the wooden golem comes out, shouldn't it be punched one by one? Although Whitebeard looked calm and stable like an old dog, there were a lot of lies in his heart. Without him. Because Luo Hao told him before the battle, as long as he helps to kill Blackbeard and take away Kizaru's shining fruit, even if Garp and Sengoku join hands, he can rub them on the ground. But now, the development of the plot is completely different from the 5.0 script written by director Luo Hao. Isn't that the wooden golem that smashed Laozi? You don't think this is Laozi's strongest hole card, do you? Like this wooden golem, if Laozi can make one, he can make a second one, and a third golem. Whitebeard watched as Sengoku and Garp approached. Especially Sengoku, with the Buddha's light flowing on his body, he looks like he wants to let himself know what a mighty dragon is at any time. Seeing this, he panicked even more. Don't look at the ease, he said, but in order to teach Sengoku a lesson of horror, the wooden golem jutsu just now has already consumed his chakra. Now let alone the whole wooden golem, even the whole wooden golem is very difficult. Chapter 85 Whitebeard. Not enough blue bars. Advertisement. As the old man Whitebeard so calm. Is there really a whole card that hasn't been revealed yet? Quote. Hearing this, Sengoku couldn't help but pause slightly. Even the Wei Tianlong who was ready to go was temporarily withdrawn. Don't be careless. Since the old man rejuvenated, he has changed a lot compared to before. The former Whitebeard was an honest person, and he was always being bullied by others. But just now he killed Kizaru. It wasn't just Sengoku who stopped, even Garp looked around vigilantly. I was afraid that Whitebeard would suddenly appear from behind and stab him like he stabbed Kizaru just now. Stabbed to death, he and Sengoku already had the absolute upper hand. Must be more careful, otherwise, they will be overturned by Whitebeard again, and they will lose their lives in the evening. Phew, I finally bluffed them. Laozi almost revealed his true colors, and they found out the truth about the lack of blue bars. Seeing the two of them stagnant, Whitebeard breathed a sigh of relief. If just now Sengoku really stepped forward and gave him the mighty heavenly dragon, world-honored one Saitagarba, Prajna Buddhas, Prajna Ba Makong. Even if he is a human being, he still cannot escape the end of revealing his true colors. But it can be fooled for a while, but not forever. Advertisement. Knowing that Garp and Sengoku are stable, tough, and not cowardly, Whitebeard took advantage of his still a little bit of prestige to shock them, immediately opened the Wanjie chat skirt that he had just put away, and decisively turned to the man standing in the distance. Luo Hao, who was eating melons while watching a movie, initiated a private chat. Whitebeard. Boy Luo, Laozi was almost beaten to death by them, are you still eating melons? Luo Hao. Otherwise, why not? I'll fight for you next time. Whitebeard. Don't pretend to be confused. This is what you said to ensure that Laozi will rub them on the ground. I think they are going to rub Laozi on the ground soon. Luo Hao. Didn't you learn the last move in the wood-style scroll? Whitebeard. I learned, but Laozi's blue bar made up for it. Laozi has slapped with both hands many times just now, but he still can't slap that wood-style ninjutsu. Luo Hao. Then I can't help it. Whitebeard saw Luo Hao say this in the chat skirt, his heart suddenly turned cold. At this time, Sengoku and Garp saw that Whitebeard looked at the world with contempt, but hadn't moved for a long time, so they couldn't help but look at each other, and they both saw a trace of suspicion in each other's eyes. Is this old guy trying to fool us? The two thought this thought in their minds at the same time, nodded to each other secretly, and rushed to Whitebeard at the same time. Especially Sengoku, the mighty Tianlong in his hands is faintly ready to be released. Watching Whitebeard terrified, Whitebeard. They're coming. Find a way for Laozi. Luo Hao. I gave you all the ninjutsu, you can't learn it by yourself, so what's the matter with me? Whitebeard. I don't care. Anyway, Blackbeard Laozi was killed by you, and the flash fruit was also taken for you. You dare to eat it and wipe it off as nothing happened. Laozi immediately took people to the Shinigami Live broadcast room under Aizen. Luo Hao. Then you go. I just want to deliver to Rayleigh in Sabayati Archipelago. 893. Seeing Luo Hao let him leave the Hokage studio without hesitation, Whitebeard's tender face turned green. Advertisement. Feelings can't stop this guy. At the critical moment of life and death, Whitebeard finally chose to be submissive in private chats and strike hard in pirates. In the private chat, who knows, except Luo Boy. But if he loses face in front of Garp and Sengoku, then he won't be able to mix in the hometown of Grand Line in the future. Whitebeard. Sorry, Laozi is wrong. Please take Laozi pretend, take Laozi to fly. Luo Hao. Okay, let's stop teasing you. I didn't expect you to learn the last wood-style ninjutsu from the very beginning. After all, it's just your blue bar, and you can't use it even if you learn it. Whitebeard. Refill on hero's water. Luo Hao. Okay, let's drink the last glass of life. Whitebeard. Then what do you say Laozi should do? Luo Hao. Don't do anything, don't lose control over your body, don't mess with your 800 Conqueror's haki. Seeing that Whitebeard is really cornered, if he doesn't take action, his image of the invincible dad will be shattered, and Luo Hao will no longer tease Whitebeard. After explaining to Whitebeard, although on the surface he still looks like a melon-eating crowd, but secretly his spirit has turned into a spirit body. FK, how did you get in here? Whitebeard was so frightened that a wave of Conqueror's haki almost blasted Luo Hao's spirit body out. No matter in any world, in any power system, the spiritual world of a person is a restricted area and the most important place. If the other party invades the spiritual world and destroys the consciousness, no matter how powerful the body is, it will be impossible to escape death in the end. Here comes the blue bottle for you. But Luo Hao's words made Whitebeard instantly hold back the Conqueror's haki that was about to spew out. Okay, buddy. Limited by the lack of blue bars, Whitebeard, who was unable to use the last whole card, immediately became elated when he heard that Luo Hao was going to fill him up. Chapter 86 Laozi Showdown. Sage Art Wood Style True Several Thousand Hands. Advertisement. Are you ready? In the spiritual world, Luo Hao said to Whitebeard. Come on, Laozi is always ready to replenish mana. As soon as Whitebeard finished speaking, he felt a rush of chakra that could be described as a torrent of water from the empty meridians. The sudden appearance of this chakra not only filled his blue bar instantly, but also made him feel unreplenishable. Damn it, what kind of mana is this kid? Where is this chakra? This is clearly chakra. When Whitebeard noticed that the blue bar was full, he felt happy, but he couldn't help cursing Luo Hao's blue volume pervert. It's obviously just a spirit body, but it's like carrying a blue bank with you. Chatanla is frighteningly huge, and what if you count the chakra stored in the physical body? It really is a bluff. In One Piece world, Sengoku watched as his mighty dragon was about to land on Whitebeard, but the other party still didn't move at all, and his eyes suddenly flashed. At this moment, he was sure that Whitebeard was bluffing. Stop pretending, Whitebeard. Garp also sneered, and slammed out his right fist. His attacks aren't as flashy as Sengoku's, but they're more like One Punch Man in One Piece. Although every punch is so simple and unpretentious, it has the power to smash meteorites. With this punch, the atmospheric Buddha with a radius of 1,000 meters was compressed to ultimate by his fist power, and then merged with his fist power, turning into a majestic impact. Hey, originally, Laozi wanted to get along with you as an ordinary person. Advertisement. I didn't expect to get your suspicions in exchange. Anyway, Laozi has a showdown backquote. Whitebeard, who had been silent all this time, suddenly let out an exclamation, then closed his eyes slightly, and clapped his hands in vain. Bang. With his body as the center, the Japanese stock will soar into the sky like a 100-ton storm that shakes the sea. Wave after wave of majestic air waves that were almost visible to the naked eye continued to surge out in all directions. The sky, the earth, and the ocean are all shaking, and Fang Buddha is about to enter a state of mutated heaven and earth. Sage Art Wood Style True Several Thousand Hands. When Sengoku and Garp's attacks were only a few meters away from him, he suddenly opened his eyes, and a pair of snake pupils were immediately exposed to the air. At the same time, a gigantic monster with 3,000 arms suddenly rose from the ground. Before Garp and Sengoku's attack hit Whitebeard, they were easily crushed by the giant. Bigger than the wooden golem and wooden dragon just now. Garp looked up at the Senju Buddha statue as tall as the red line in front of him with a shocked face. Whitebeard isn't pretending, actually still holding such a whole card. Sengoku's face became extremely gloomy. Just by looking with the naked eye, he can feel a strong sense of oppression from the Senju Buddha statue in front of him. Not to mention that his observation Hokage is still warning him constantly, telling him how terrifying the Senju Buddha statue in front of him is. It wasn't just the two of them who were shocked by the Senju Buddha statue, even the Marines and pirates who were fighting on the battlefield, and even all the melon-eating skirt friends who watched the live broadcast in the skirt chat were stunned by the sudden true several thousand hands. Zhang Chulin. Damn it. True several thousand hands are all done. Advertisement. Seeds. The scale of this wood is kind of scary. Aizen Sosuke. It's so scary. Zhang Chulin. Boss Luo, what you have done for dad is very good. Whitebeard. What do you mean by cheating on Laozi? Is Laozi the kind of person who likes to rely on external forces? Laozi is dancing with his own strength. Zhang Chulin. Father, you've really put on a good show. If you can cut off Boss Luo's spiritualization technique to enter your spiritual world, help you supplement the 10 paragraphs of the blue bar. Luo Hao. If you want to blame Billion, I didn't expose you. 3. After Whitebeard turned off the skirt chat without saying a word, he immediately cursed inwardly. Damn skirt chat live. Damn skirt chat camera. It's fine to take a picture of Luo Hao's process of performing the spiritualization technique, but he even took a picture of the part where he helped him fill up the blue bar in the spiritual world. Sengoku. Garp. After failing to forcefully pretend and being slapped in the face, the somewhat annoyed Whitebeard directly vented his anger on his old lover Sengoku and Garp, the third party. Under his control, the Senju Buddha statue started, no good, to move forward on the stalk. Every step you move, the earth is shaking and cracking. The sea in the distance was stirred up by waves tens of meters high. Attention, the strongest man in the world is going to show his power. After showing off the power of his old lover to Garp, Sengoku immediately put on a posture of being ready for battle. Such a big piece of wood is a bit difficult to handle. If one is not handled well, maybe we and Sengoku will really be beaten to death by Whitebeard. Garp looked at Whitebeard, who suddenly looked angry. He was a little dazed, and at the same time he was a little out of bed. After all, wooden golem, who can press Sengoku on the ground and rub against it, is actually not as big as a head of Senju Buddha statue. Chapter 87 Senju Whitebeard. Laozi gives you 2 hands. Advertisement. Big Buddha shock. Sengoku took a deep breath, suppressing the shock of the Senju Buddha statue. As his eyes narrowed, rings of golden Buddha lights that shook the atmosphere and made people daunting burst out from his whole body. At this moment, the world-honored one Saitagarbha, the Prajna Buddhas and the Buddhas are all giving him Prajna Ba Makong. With one hand, the Dewey Tianlong, who was afraid of even the Tathagata Buddha, struck out brazenly. Fist bone meteorite. At the same time, Garp also made a move. Just as Sengoku turned into a giant Buddha, flew up and sent a mighty dragon over Whitebeard's head, at the same time, he also dodged to the back of the Senju Buddha statue, and punched the back of the Buddha statue. Do you still want to give Laozi a Dewey Tianlong? Whitebeard immediately sneered after sensing the movements of the two with observation Hokage. Not seeing any movement from him, a wooden golem entrenched on top of the Buddha statue jumped in front of Garp and kicked him away. Meanwhile, Whitebeard clasped his hands together. The Buddha statue grabbed 733 with its hand, just like when Senju Hashirama suppressed the prestige Susanoo, ignoring Sengoku's Dewey Tianlong, pinching Sengoku, who turned into a golden Buddha with one hand. Then push him back to the ground. Just a slap in the face not only billowed up soaring smoke and dust, but also shattered one of the 4 islands formed by Marineford into pieces. Marshal Sengoku, Vice Admiral Garp, the Marine generals who fought fiercely with the Whitebeard pirates on the other 3 islands all looked worried when they saw this scene. How to fight? Covered by smoke and dust like a waterfall on all sides, Garp, who was in a panic, helped Sengoku, who was spitting out blood, to his feet. The current Whitebeard is much more difficult to deal with than the original Golden Lion. Sengoku wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, his face was full of seriousness. Fortunately, he is an ability user of the Zone Phantom Beast species. After awakening, it is close to the recovery power of immune to death. Is it too soon? Advertisement. Do you want Laozi to let you go? After rubbing both of them on the ground with backhands, I only felt refreshed physically and mentally. Even the depression of being slapped in the face after failing to pretend in the skirt chat just now was also expressed. Stop being crazy. We're only just getting started. Sengoku growled a little exasperatedly. As that's so. Seeing that you two are working so hard to please me, Laozi originally wanted you two to hold hands. It seems that you don't need it. Quote. Whitebeard apparently thought it was okay after the report offered unlimited chat and pull support. With a slight advantage, he immediately waved. VR. When Garp heard this, he suddenly became furious. Are you sure you want to give us 2 hands? Keep your word. But before Garp could open his mouth, Garp, who was still in a state of exasperation just now, asked calmly. Of course. Laozi is Whitebeard. Whitebeard laughed proudly. Well, I'd like to see how you Whitebeard can beat us both while giving us 2 hands. If you can do this, I, Sengoku, will stay away from you Whitebeard in the future. Sengoku said in a deep voice. Click. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a sound of wood breaking from the Senju Buddha statue. Immediately afterwards, 2 huge wooden arms like mountains fell into the sea with a bang, splashing waves tens of meters high. Advertisement. Okay, Laozi has given you 2 hands. If it's not enough, just say it. Laozi can let some more. After Whitebeard removed 2 of the arms of the Senju Buddha statue, he said to Sengoku and Garp. Sengoku quietly glanced at the 2,998 arms behind the Senju Buddha statue, and fell silent for a moment. Garp clenched his fists tightly, his body trembling and heaving unceasingly. He wanted to curse, but found that he couldn't find the right words to send to Whitebeard at this time. It's so annoying. This is what kind of 2 hands? Your Senju Buddha statue has 3,000 hands, even if there are 2,998 hands, what difference does it make? Come on, keep dancing. Please Laozi as much as you want. Whitebeard stood on the head of the Senju Buddha statue, looking down on Garp and Sengoku. There are no words, and no words are needed. Garp and Sengoku started without saying a word. Unlike before, the 2 who danced again exuded a murderous aura that wanted to hammer Whitebeard to death on the spot. What qualities? I've given you 2 hands, and you're still so rude. Whitebeard pouted, and clapped his hands again, turning Buddha on the top. Moved. Put Buddha an unattainable moving mountain like Senju Buddha statue in motion. The arms that hung high in the sky clenched into fists, and then fell from the sky with a gesture of cannon fire washing the ground. Facing Senju Buddha statue's fist like that of the demon dancer, Garp's iron fist, Sengoku's Dewei Tianlong only destroyed hundreds of arms, and was crushed to the ground by thousands of fists, beating crazily. In an instant, the shattered Marineford was swallowed by smoke and dust rising into the sky like a mushroom cloud. Chapter 88 Sengoku. Garp. That's it. That's it. Advertisement. Under the cloud of smoke and dust covering the 4 pieces of Marineford Island, no one could see the battlefield on Whitebeard's side clearly. However, from the loud noises of thunder constantly coming from the ears, and the huge turmoil that swept across dozens of miles around, everyone can roughly infer the situation of the battle. Sengoku the Buddha and Garp the hero, the 2 top marine kings, are likely to be held down by Whitebeard on the ground at this moment, rubbing together crazily. A full 3 minutes passed before the turbulent air waves and the continuous rumbling sound gradually stopped. However, the sand and dust floating around, covering up even the sky, still blocked everyone's sight, making it impossible for people to see the situation of the battle clearly. Marine hero. Buddha Sengoku. That's it. That's it. On a rock as large as a small island, Whitebeard stood proudly on top of the Buddha statue, looking at Marineford, who had been crushed by himself in a quarter, with a look of contempt on his face. You really let Laozi down. I've already given you a hand, but it's still. When Whitebeard was about to pretend to his heart's content, a looming golden light pierced the smoke and dust, looming in his sight. No way. After carrying more than 2,000 punches, these 2 old men have not been overtaken by Laozi's true several thousand hands. If you can carry it like this, why don't you use it? Quote. Whitebeard's expression tightened, and he quickly concentrated his tired spirit and released observation haki. With this perception, he immediately discovered that the breath of Sengoku and Garp still existed. It just got a lot weaker. Even compared to when he was old, it was far worse. It's really not dead yet. Whitebeard's heart tightened slightly. Don't look at his infinite beauty. Advertisement. But his chakra is produced by drinking the water of heroes. The true several thousand hands in the back was also reluctantly cast by Luo Hao to help him replenish the blue bars remotely. Although he didn't suffer any serious injuries, the cells of his body were squeezed by the water of heroes, coupled with waves of wood-style ninjutsu, almost emptied the chakra in his body. At this time, he is nothing more than a strong outsider. Whitebeard, are you done punching? At this time, Garp's voice came from afar through the smoke. 2,999 8 punches, I'll take it down for you. As soon as Garp finished speaking, Sengoku's voice followed. Damn it, I should have known that Laozi would not pretend just now. Hearing the murderous voices of the 2, Whitebeard first glanced at a Senju Buddha statue that had already been sold out, and then unconsciously glanced at the 2 wooden arms floating on the sea. Although he wouldn't tell the people in the skirt chat, but he admitted in his heart that he was late. If he was given another chance, he would never remove the 2 wooden arms. Chakra is not enough to make arms for Senju Buddha. Whitebeard hastily made a seal gesture. But in the next second, his heart went cold. The body energy stored in the cells in the body has already been squeezed out by the hero water. If it weren't for Luo Hao to supplement him with a tube of extra-large Hashirama cells, and he Whitebeard himself has abundant capital. At this moment, it was difficult for him to even stand and speak. Not to mention refining chakra. What should I do? Advertisement. Do you want Laozi to kneel and lick boy Luo again? Thinking of this, Whitebeard was immediately troubled. No matter what, he is also a prominent figure in the skirt chat. 0 for flowers. Even Bai Lian, who is a member of the chat room, is willing to recognize him as her father. As the strongest man in the world, how could he kneel and lick the same person twice on the same day and in the same place? Whitebeard. Boy Luo, fill up the blue. Luo Hao. Do you think Laozi is 9 tails or 10 tails? Perpetual motion won't work. Do you know how much mana was hit by the true several thousand hands just now? Whitebeard. So, Laozi is dead. Luo Hao. Who made you so majestic just now? You took off 2 arms before you started fighting. Oh, Whitebeard. Is there really nothing you can do? Luo Hao. Chakra is no better than armed and knowledgeable. If this Hokage is used up, it will be tired at most. If you take a rest for a while, you will be a good man again, but once this chakra is used up, you will die. Whitebeard. Give Laozi another tube of Hashirama cells and a bottle of heroic water. Laozi promises not to pack 13 this time. Luo Hao. There are still Hashirama cells, but the hero water is gone. Whitebeard. It's over. Luo Hao. Actually, it doesn't have to be finished. You can pick up the 2 arms that you removed, and try to see if it can be put back into the Senju Buddha statue. Whitebeard. Is this what people say? Laozi is Whitebeard. How can they do something that is not what they say when they give them 2 arms? After angrily closing the private chat, Whitebeard took a deep breath, and glanced calmly at Sengoku's direction. Immediately afterwards, he swiftly slipped from the top of the Senju Buddha statue to the surface of the sea. Before Garp and the others came over, he lifted the wooden arms one by one and reinstalled them on the Senju Buddha statue. Chapter 89. Pretend to be the most ruthless, do the most cowardly thing. Advertisement. Under the cover of mushroom cloud-like smoke and dust blasted by true several thousand hands, Whitebeard's subtle operation was naturally not discovered by the pirates and marine. But all the skirt friends who were watching the live broadcast could see it clearly. After all, the camera of Wanjie's chat skirt can even capture Luo Hao after using the spiritualization technique, and even Whitebeard's spiritual world, let alone the mere smoke and dust. Luo Hao, Zhang Chulin, Acetus, Aizen Sosuke. Witnessed Whitebeard's showy operation, watching him actually reinstall the 2 wooden arms floating on the sea to the Senju Buddha statue, 310, not to mention Zhang Chulin and others, even Luo Hao who proposed this idea also speechless. Is this still worth it? The most powerful man in the world, actually played such a classic show operation. This really confused every member in the skirt chat. Acedes. Billion, is this what you mentioned before, pretending to be the most ruthless, and doing the most cowardly thing? Zhang Chulin. This, Dad, although I always think that dignity is not worth a lot of money, can't you ask Boss Luo to turn off the live broadcast before doing this kind of show operation? Aizen Sosuke. Whitebeard is enlightened. He understands that dignity and face are the biggest obstacles on the road to victory. Luo Hao. I talked about something in private with Whitebeard just now, but I don't know whether to say it or not. Whitebeard. You shut up. Luo Hao. A supremely sharp knife. Whitebeard. Deal. Before the other members asked Luo Hao enthusiastically, Whitebeard had already gagged Luo Hao's mouth with a supremely sharp knife. What international joke. It was humiliating enough that he had put the chopped off wooden arm back together. But even so, his aggressive style and appearance are there after all. Acedes and other skirt friends will only feel a strong sense of joy when they read it. At most, they will only tease him for a while, and then laugh it off. Advertisement. But if Luo Hao reveals what he said in the private chat again, then he will most likely be labeled as not shaking billion just like Zhang Chulin. Slap. Just as Whitebeard was bribing Luo Hao, a sound of heavy footsteps suddenly reached his ears. These 2 are immortal. In order to deal with the 2 of them, Laozi has confessed all his face here today. Whitebeard heard the words, turned off the skirt chat, and looked towards the place where the voice came from. Under his gaze, 2 looming figures soon appeared in the thick smoke. Whitebeard, are you done punching? In a few moments, Sengoku and Garp, whose body was covered in blood and whose lacquer was no longer shiny, walked slowly through the smoke, hand in hand. As the 2 talked, they looked up at Whitebeard. Nima, why do you still have 2 arms? Garp looked at Whitebeard and found that the Senju Buddha statue actually had 2 arms, and he was stunned. Isn't his 2,998 arms finished? Sengoku's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. After receiving more than 2,000 punches, he finally got his head out. As a result, as soon as I came out, I saw that the Senju Buddha statue had grown 2 arms again. Although the number of arms is only 2 sporadically, it also makes people feel depressed and angry. There are only 2 arms left in the Senju Buddha statue, and the condition of the 2 of them is not much better. In order to withstand the more than 2,000 punches of the Senju Buddha statue, they used up all the armament Hokage in one go. 0. Now even the 3 admirals Akainu, Aokiji, and Kizaru can rub them on the ground in front of each other. Just regrown. Whitebeard said deadpan. Grown. When Sengoku, who is known as the resourceful general, heard it, his mind suddenly flashed. Advertisement. He immediately looked left and right for a while, but he couldn't find the 2 wooden arms that Whitebeard had dismantled just now in the nearby sea. Where did the arm go? Garp wasn't dumb either. Seeing Sengoku looking around for something, he also reacted. It should be when I beat you just now, I accidentally beat you to pieces. Whitebeard was a little guilty, but said without blushing on the surface. Break it. Do you think I'm an idiot? Hearing this, Sengoku suddenly burst out with several huge veins on his forehead. Whitebeard, do you want some face? Garp also looked furious. How about giving 2 hands? As a result, we received more than 2,000 punches from you, but you secretly put your hands back to 3.7. Are you fooled by me? Just say something that Laozi can't understand. Whitebeard looked blankly at the angry Garp. Garp. What did you do yourself? Don't you have any clues in your mind? Still pretending to be ignorant to the old man here. Sengoku pointed at Whitebeard and growled. Stop giving Laozi this trick. If you can't beat Laozi, give up to Laozi. Don't babble here, just say such embarrassing things. Whitebeard sneered. The head can be broken and the blood can flow. Only the fact that he put the wooden arm back together, he would not admit it even if he was killed. Chapter 90 I understand. Hokage-sama wants to take the fruit of face. Advertisement. We can't beat you. When Garp heard that Whitebeard was in his 70s, he even said such shameless words, and immediately laughed out of breath. Let's go to the other side and go one-on-one. Whitebeard sneered. You are so G annoying. Garp's face flushed red with anger. Any idea? Head it up. He really can't beat Whitebeard right now. With 1 against 2, it took more than 2,000 punches before barely overpowering Whitebeard. And after Whitebeard quietly reinstalled the 2 wooden arms that had been cut off, it no longer existed. Whitebeard, I'm sure I'll get you today, even if I lose 4th Hokage, I won't be able to keep you. As the saying goes, the more you think about it for a while, the more angry you become, and the more you think about it when you take a step back, the more you lose. Thinking of the 2,000-odd punches just now for nothing, even a 30-thick nerve like Garp couldn't bear it anymore. With you today, without us. There is no sympathy for anyone who comes, even the 5 elders are no exception. Garp couldn't help it. How can Sengoku, who is the marshal, swallow his anger? Thoroughly enraged by Whitebeard's behavior, the two immediately erupted into 2 shocking Conqueror's haki. The smoke and dust covering the area of thousands of meters was cleared in an instant. Come on. I really think Laozi is afraid that you two will fail. Advertisement. Clay figurines are also 3-pointed, let alone the strongest man in the world. After being insulted by Sengoku and Garp pointing their noses, Whitebeard, who was a little guilty, also became angry from embarrassment. Bang bang bang. Just when the 3 old men who combined were over 200 years old were ready to fight with real swords and guns because of the quarrel, a Conqueror's haki-like gods might intervened in the dispute between the 3 with an extremely arrogant attitude. 4 strands of Conqueror's haki collided with each other, and one after another ferocious and frightening black lightning flashed out immediately. Immediately afterwards, waves of haki shocks swept across the battlefield one after another. After being affected by the Conquerors, the few remaining islands and the many pirates fighting fiercely on the ice, the Marines fell in response. Under the expansion of these 4 Conquerors haki, they can still stand on the battlefield, either a Vice Admiral level Marine elite, or a Captain level pirate. Because of the expansion of these 4 Conquerors haki, the originally chaotic battlefield suddenly became silent. Conquerors. Who is it? Can you actually intervene in the struggle between the 3 of them? This sudden Conquerors not only stopped the chaotic fight, but also made Margao and others who were not stunned look sideways. Hit now. Even Naval Headquarters is gone. I think a few of you should be enough. Just as everyone was looking for the owner of the Conqueror's haki, a haki leaking sound spread across the entire battlefield like a torrent. Hiss. It's him. Red Force. 4 Emperors. Is the redhead Shanks coming? Is he going to help Whitebeard? Advertisement. When an iconic dragon-headed pirate ship passed through layers of thick smoke and slowly entered the sight of everyone, through this pirate ship, everyone recognized the identity of the person who suddenly intervened in the war. Zhang Chulin. He's here, that legendary man with red hair, Shanks. He's finally here with his stereo and face fruit. Aizen Sosuke. Fruit of face. Does it sound like something awesome? Is it Paramesh's highest level devil fruit? A seeds. So the speaker he is carrying should be a very powerful artifact in the world of pirates. Luo Hao. Zhang Chulin. Aizen Sosuke. You don't need to say it, I understand it. Your Excellency Hokage. Aizen Sosuke. You don't get involved in the summit war, but you don't leave there. Apart from wanting to watch the show, you just fell in love with the red-haired Shanks, and want to take this ability away. A seeds. The fruit of face, the ability to make you wait for it should be no less powerful than shock fruit. Zhang Chulin. 440. Looking at the chat between Aizen Sosuke and a seeds in the skirt, Luo Hao and Zhang Chulin could only open their mouths, but they couldn't say anything in the end. Especially Zhang Chulin. He didn't expect that what he said casually would trigger such a discussion. Aren't you willing to disclose the ability of fruit of face? I also want to know more about the ability of fruit of face. It seems that this face fruit is more difficult than I imagined. Otherwise, Your Excellency Hokage and Chu Lan don't need the ability to hide the fruit of face in skirt chat at all. Aizen Sosuke stared at the live video, and the eyes under the glasses flashed a gleam. Thinking of distinguished heavenly gods, which can modify human consciousness, and shock fruit, sparkling fruit, which are earth-shatteringly destructive devil fruit, Luo Hao and Zhang Chulin didn't hide anything, but this face fruit was unwilling to reveal anything information out. He couldn't help being afraid of the ability of this unprecedented fruit of face. Chapter 91 Red Hair. Oda, they don't act according to the script. Advertisement. What about the 3 of them? Why are they all getting so young? On the bow of the Red Force, the red-haired Shanks glanced at the 3 Whitebeards from a distance, and his mind was slightly shocked. Although the Grand Line is full of wonders, for him who has already stood on the top of the New World, apart from Raftel, this sea has no mystery at all. Things like Whitebeard's rejuvenation surprised even him. Are you here to meddle in our wars, Redhead? Sengoku stared intently at the red-haired Shanks coming by boat. Judging by his expression, once the red-haired Shanks said yes, he would immediately fight with the other party. On the contrary, I am here to stop this war that has no sense anymore. The red-haired Shanks suppressed his shock at the thought of his purpose in coming here. Immediately afterwards, his figure flashed, and he appeared in the middle of Whitebeard, Garp, and Sengoku as if teleporting. HMPH. It's not up to you to decide whether it makes sense or not. Sengoku snorted coldly. It's different when people reach middle age. Compared with him when he was old, his waist is straighter now, and he speaks more confidently. Even if he faced 4 emperors at the same time, he didn't fear each other at all. You came just in time. Before you led the old grandson Luffy to the crooked path of the pirates, today the old man happens to settle with you together with the principle and interest. When Garp thinks of his cute and well-behaved grandson, Luffy, who won't resist even if he is tied to a hot air balloon and thrown into the sky, or thrown to the bottom of a cliff, since he followed the redhead, he not only wants to be the One Piece every day, but now he is even more going directly to sea to become a thief. The resentment in my heart suddenly broke out. Whitebeard, do me a favor, Sunspot. The red-haired Shanks ignored the angry Garp and turned to Whitebeard to activate the fruit ability. Advertisement. Redhead, give Laozi a face, join hands with Laozi to do Sengoku and Garp. While talking, Baihu secretly said in his heart. Fortunately, Laozi has long been guarding against your face-saving fruit. Otherwise, if you win your fruit ability, Laozi will give you this face. I'm sorry, please forgive me for not being able to give you this face. The red-haired Shanky's mouth twitched slightly. He really didn't expect that the fruit of face ability would fail to activate. Sure enough, it is not easy to become the strongest man in the world after regaining youth. Even if the fruit of face is dispatched, it is not easy to win. Then there's nothing wrong with you here. You go to the side first, wait for Laozi to kill these 2 old guys, and then come back and talk to you in detail. Although even the Senju Buddha statue was beaten to the point where only 2 arms remained, Whitebeard didn't show any signs of cowardice. Counseling several times in front of Luo Hao, he has had enough. Facing Garp and the others from his hometown, he, Whitebeard, would never give in. Even if the red-haired Shanks activates the face fruit, he will never give this face. You too, whether you want to admit it or not, you have indeed lost this war. From the moment Ace was rescued by Whitebeard, the outcome was sealed. Let it go. Enough people have fallen here because of this war. Do me a favor and end this war. The red-haired Shanks saw that Whitebeard was so stubborn that he couldn't even take the fruit of face, and felt a headache in his heart, so he could only shift the target. After Whitebeard failed to activate the fruit ability, this time he directly used the awakening ability of the fruit of face. Advertisement. He not only wants Sengoku to give him face, but also wants Garp to give him face too. Ah, now that you redhead Shanks are all over your mouth. Then I will definitely give you face. Come join us and kill Whitebeard, and we Marines will call you the chief of the 4 emperors. When Sengoku said at the beginning that he promised to save face, the red-haired Shanks was all smiles. But when the following words came out, not only did his smile stiffen, he was even a little dazed. How is this going? Why didn't everyone act according to Oda's script? It's because his face is gone, or the stereo he carried is broken. What the hell happened here? It seems that you are determined to continue this meaningless war. After a silence, Kex suddenly took a deep, money breath, and then his eyes turned cold in vain. Obviously, he angered Kai. Those with fruit abilities who are dignified face will activate their fruit abilities in person. Neither side actually sold his face. It was literally slapping him in the face. Isn't that obvious? We even lost Marineford, how can we stop the war just because of your word? Sengoku glanced at the redhead Shanks. This guy has really grown bigger and bigger since he ate the fruit of face. If he's old, he's still a bit cowardly red-haired Shanks, the fruit of face that even Aizen Sosuke is afraid of. But now, with the Hashirama cell body protection, he is not afraid of the fruit ability of the red-haired Shanks at all. Chapter 92 The face-saving fruit you are talking about. Is that it? Advertisement. Laozi still said that. Today I just want to beat them to death, or be beaten to death by them. Whitebeard glanced at the Senju Buddha statue and spoke confidently. Although there are only 2 arms left, he firmly believes that Garp and Sengoku, who have received more than 2,000 punches from him, must be at the end of their strength. After these 2 punches, even if Garp and Sengoku survived, they were powerless to fight him again. It is with this confidence. He won't budge on anything. He's done too much to hammer Garp and Sengoku to death. Not only did he admit cowardice in front of Luo Hao, he even reattached the arm of the Senju Buddha statue in front of the eyes of all his skirt friends. Come on, let's see who kills who. As Garp said, the Conqueror's haki in his body was faintly coming out. Sengoku on the side also immediately transformed into a golden Buddha again. It's just because he received more than 2,000 punches not long ago. After this transformation, Sengoku's Buddha body not only has a dull paint surface, but also has a swollen figure with a swollen waist. Enough. Seeing that the 3 of them completely ignored their own existence, they were about to fight again soon. The red-haired Shanks yelled angrily, and then with a clang, he pulled out his favorite health care, Griffin. If any of you do me any favors, he's a friend of my red-haired Shanks. But if anyone still insists on continuing to fight, then I will be his opponent. The red-haired Shanks stared, and the world's strongest Conqueror's haki surged out like a wave. Rejected again and again. Being humiliated again and again. He finally got real. Not only activated the awakening ability of the face fruit, but also activated Conqueror's haki and the ability of the face fruit. Advertisement. This is also the strongest combination of his fruit ability and haki. With this move, he became 4 emperors. Once this move is made, 5 elders will give him face. Once this move is made, everyone who doesn't give him face will be in bad luck. Zhang Chulin. Here we come. After being humiliated by others, the redhead finally couldn't hold back and wanted to make a bigger move. Luo Hao. The strongest secrets of the fruit of face have been revealed. Zhang Chulin. Father, they should give face this time. After all, anyone who doesn't give red hair will be hit to varying degrees by the ability of the fruit of face, and if it is serious, they may even lose their lives. Seeds. Aizen Sosuke. The fruit of face you're talking about, is that it? Zhang Chulin. That's right. Wherever the red hair goes, people give him face, so he is also called a person with the ability to face fruit. Otherwise, what do you think it is? Aizen Sosuke. Chu Lan, I will give you another chance to reorganize the language. Zhang Chulin. Sorry, Captain Aizen. Luo Hao. Captain Aizen, don't blame him, it's all because I didn't speak clearly just now. Sin. The fruit of face that I have studied so seriously, is this the same thing? Damn billion. Damn 4th Hokage. Aizen Sosuke, who was thinking hard about the powerful ability of the fruit of face, was completely stunned. After recovering, he stiffly looked down at the notes he was taking. Focus on 4 emperors. Redhead Shanks. Devil fruit. Face fruit, an ability that 4th Hokage longs for. Danger level. Suspected to be higher than Whitebeard. What the hell did I do? Aizen Sosuke covered his face with his hands in pain. Because of what Billion said just now, he not only listed the red-haired Shanks as the focus of attention. Even listened to the live broadcast and watched the redhead Shanks very intently. Advertisement. Since the opponent appeared on the stage, he has recorded every word and every action he said one by one. The results of it, he observes, records, and researches so seriously. It turned out that the so-called fruit of face turned out to be a meme. When he thought that he actually posted in the skirt chat just now, saying that Luo Hao wanted to win the fruit of face, he almost couldn't hold back and clicked on the Wanjie chat skirt, and then clicked to withdraw the skirt. My majestic style, my majestic image, gone. Nothing. It took a lot of hard work to pretend to be a character for hundreds of years, and it was hard to create a character that was famous in the world. The character was completely shattered. How can I still meet people in skirts in the future? Aizen Sosuke slumped on the chair, his face full of despair and pain. While he hasn't lost to Kurosaki Ichigo yet, he can say one thing for sure. Even losing to Kurosaki Ichigo is far less painful than being broken. In the world of slashing the Crimson Eyes, Seeds, who had just buried hundreds of thousands of northern aliens alive and was returning to the imperial capital, suddenly stopped. General Seeds, is there something wrong? Liwa, who was on the side, saw it, and hurriedly galloped over. Acetus had no expression on his face, as if no one should enter. Please tell me, Liva asked respectfully. Dig up the hundreds of thousands of northern aliens that were buried just now, and bury them again. Aceed's words stunned Liva. Who on earth has provoked this general? Could it be a northern alien? But there is no reason. They were buried alive just now. Chapter 93. I told them to save me, and they hit me. Advertisement. Redhead, what do you mean? Whitebeard looked at the red-haired Shanks who was drawing his sword to him, and also summoned all the people to stand in the center of the battlefield. His eyes gradually narrowed. A trace of dangerous murderous intent began to permeate the eyes. In this scene, Fangfo was telling Zhang Chulin and their group of friends that the old man who was slightly funny in front of them was gone forever. At this moment, the world's strongest man is fully online. Literal meaning, if the 3 stick to their views, continue to fight. Then we, red hair pirates, will compete with the 3 of them. Quote. The red-haired Shanks has serious eyes, and his tone is full of hockey. You sure? Sengoku blankly shifted his target to the red-haired Shanks. Kaba. Garp didn't speak, but his 5 fingers gradually clenched into a fist, and there was a sound of bone brittleness that made people's hearts skip a beat. Good. The red-haired Shanks said without a word. From his debut until now, he has always only let others give him face. There is no time for him to give others face. Whitebeard, Garp, and Sengoku didn't give him face one after another today, so he had no choice but to play in person to let them know what will happen to him if he doesn't give face. Whitebeard. Sengoku looked up at Whitebeard upon hearing this. Do him first, and then we'll decide the outcome. Whitebeard and Sengoku looked at each other and suddenly said in unison. Advertisement. As soon as the voice fell, 3 majestic waves of Conqueror's hockey erupted outrageously, instantly shaking the atmosphere into bursts of distorted and turbulent air fluctuations. Captain, something is wrong. Ben Beckman's face tightened slightly. Even as the deputy of the 4 emperors, facing the Conqueror's hockey of the 3 top powerhouses in the world today, even he felt flustered. This situation is a bit bad. Usopp held the rifle, not knowing whom to aim. Captain, are you sure we're going to hit all 3 of them? Lucky Lu swallowed hard the saliva in his mouth. Suddenly, he felt that the barbecue in his hand was no longer fragrant. This situation is completely different from what Shanks the red hair said. Before coming to end the war, the red-haired Shanks also told them that once there is a conflict, the worst possible thing is to go to war with one of them. But now, why did Whitebeard, Garp, and Sengoku, who were originally in a state of conflict, suddenly join forces and want to kill their red-hair pirates together? It's not right. Facing the inquiries of the crew, the red-haired Shanks maintains a cold and disdainful attitude on the surface, but he is very affectionate in his heart. That guy Oda cheated himself again. The fruit of the promised face can walk sideways on the grand line. The fruit of the promised face, even the Whitebeard pirates will give him face. The promised face fruit even Sengoku and Akainu would sell his face. Why did everyone disrespect him after the Summit War? I seem to have screwed myself up. Advertisement. The red-haired Shanks glanced cautiously at the murderous Whitebeard trio, feeling a sudden bitterness in his heart. He was obviously here to persuade the fight, and he spoke very politely. Just as usual, I said something to Sengoku and others to save me, why did they all beat me up? Luo Hao. I don't know why. I always feel like I'm sorry for the redhead. Zhang Chulin. Of course you're sorry for the red hair, your 3 tubes of Hashirama cells have made people with the ability to lose face. 0 for flowers. Aizen Sosuke. The 3 old men were all on the verge of dying, and there is no anger at all. Now you give each of them a tube of Hashirama cells, especially Whitebeard and 2 tubes. It is no wonder that they are not very angry. Seeds. He fought so hard that Naval Headquarters was gone. If he could stop the fight with a single word, it would be a ghost. Because of the fruit of face, whether Aizen Sosuke or Seeds, both of them are extremely disliked by the red-haired Shanks. If it wasn't for this damn fruit of face, the 2 of them wouldn't have made such a big joke in the skirt chat. Especially Aizen Sosuke, who is already secretly planning to travel to the world of pirates in secret at this time, personally slaughtered the red-haired Shanks, the 4 emperors who made people give him face everywhere. Captain, what shall we do? Do you really fight? Awed by the 3 streams of Conqueror's haki, apart from the red-haired Shanks, even Ben Beckman began to have a few drops of cold sweat on his forehead. Beat. The red-haired Shanks secretly calculated that the 3 old men had been fighting for so long, and after their fighting strength was less than half of their peak period, he gritted his teeth fiercely and spat out a typo. When someone with the ability to achieve face saving comes in person, it's fine if others don't give him face, how can he lose face again? This makes him how to rely on his face in the new world in the future. Puff. Just when the 4 of them broke out Conqueror's haki and were about to fight together, an extremely abrupt laughter suddenly sounded. 3 of the Conqueror's haki suddenly dispersed, as if they had never appeared before. This scene made the red-haired Shanks, who was full of energy and ready to fight, feel like he was punching the air. Chapter 94 Red Hair. Oda, he took my face fruit. Advertisement. Sorry, I laughed. Luo Hao, who stepped on the sea not far away, smiled and waved his hands. He doesn't want to laugh either. But watching the red-haired Shanks carry the stereo up close and come to pretend with the fruits of face, but in the end he was deflated again and again. In the end, not only did he fail to stop the war, but even put himself in a trap, he couldn't help laughing anymore. Hockey men like red-haired Shanks sometimes fail to pretend. This really opened his eyes. Even if in a way, the failure of red-haired Shanks' face fruit to activate is also because he gave Whitebeard and they hit Hashirama cells. Your Excellency, why is June 27th here? Garp looked warily at Luo Hao who was standing not far away. Your Excellency Hokage, you don't want to join the Summit War, do you? Sengoku was shocked when he said this. No, I'm just here to watch the show. It's just that my original seat was taken away by you, so I can only stand here. Luo Hao pointed at Marineford, which had already been broken into countless rocks. So that's what happened. I'm sorry, you lost your seat, Mr. Hokage. This is the fault of the 3 of us. Quote. Hearing this, Sengoku heaved a sigh of relief when he learned that Luo Hao was not here to help Whitebeard. Hey, Kuzan, don't fight yet, Mr. Hokage's movie viewing seat was taken away by us. Come here and get him a seat first. Immediately afterwards, he turned his head and yelled loudly at Aokiji, who was fighting fiercely with Margao and Ace, under the watchful eyes of the red-haired Shanks and others. You heard that too. Aokiji glanced at Ace. Margao. Go, we promise to stand here waiting for you until you come back. Malcolm waved. Advertisement. We won't even fight a marine. Ace followed suit. Wait. Aokiji nodded in satisfaction, then jumped up and came in front of Luo Hao. Before Luo Hao could speak, he stretched out his hand into the sea. Call out. In an instant, the sea with a radius of tens of miles had frozen into a plain of ice and snow. And at the position of Luo Hao's heel, an ice sculpture throne was pulled out of thin air. Please sit down. After helping Luo Hao create an excellent viewing environment and a VIP throne, Aokiji quickly said politely. Thank you, Pheasant. Luo Hao sat down happily. There is no such dancing gesture when I first arrived in Marineford. No hard work. Call me anytime you need anything. Seeing Luo Hao's bright smile, Pheasant's face couldn't help twitching slightly. He will never forget that this seemingly harmless guy in front of him rubbed his face with a fire-style spiral shuriken just now. Alright, get on with your work. Luo Hao waved his hand. Aokiji forced a grin and returned to the battlefield. Captain, which onion is he? Standing aside, watching Luo Hao come to Marine Admiral Aokiji with a wave and go away with a wave, and watching Marine Admiral Sengoku standing aside to greet him and ask him if the chair is comfortable, Usopp was not only dumbfounded, but also silly. It seems that you don't have this treatment either. Lalu Chi said blankly. Advertisement. I think their captain is the 4 emperors, and at the same time, he is also a person with the ability to save face. But after visiting Marineford in person, no one poured a cup of tea, but was beaten and killed. 0. This isn't the new One Piece, is it? Ben Beckman's brain froze, too. Mainly, the treatment of red-haired Shanks and Luo Hao is too far apart. This made him really puzzled. Although the Grand Line is big, there are really few people whose status is more precious than Shanks. The red-haired Shanks opened his mouth to say something, but found himself unable to hold back a few words for a while. Oda, I want to sue him. This is the man, he took the fruit of face you gave me. Shanks, while Sengoku and they don't have time to pay attention to you now, just sneak away. This face, they won't give it to you. While Sengoku was busy greeting Luo Hao at this time, Dracula Mahawk quietly came to the red-haired Shanks with a black knife in his hand. Hokage, what's the origin of this guy? Why Sengoku, Aokiji and the others don't even care about Whitebeard, they all revolve around him. And Whitebeard, he just stood there and didn't take the opportunity to make a move on Sengoku. Even 5 Elders 2.7 don't get that kind of treatment. When the red-haired Shanks saw Dracula Mahawk approaching, he quickly grabbed him and asked. He is confused. Really confused. I don't know why I came here with a stereo and a fruit of face, but Luo Hao just smiled at the side. Sengoku and Aokiji were both fathers and mothers, greeting each other, before the saddle and after the horse. At the same time, he felt a little envious in his heart. This is the ultimate treatment he pursues. The treatment that those with the fruit of face ability have. Wherever you go, everyone will give face. Chapter 95 Hokage-sama, give me face. Advertisement. If you can clean up Marine 3 Admiral and Hero Garp one by one by yourself, and it only takes 2 or 3 punches to clean up any one of them, then you can also get this treatment. Dracula Mahawk glanced at Shanks strangely as he spoke. Everyone is out to hang out. You Shanks just want to settle the dispute with a BGM and a sentence to give me face, isn't this too beautiful? Do you think everyone is like me, willing to sell your face? On the contrary, when Luo Hao came to Naval Headquarters, he danced without saying anything. Convincing people with reasoning in Naval Headquarters, with a superb physical attack, beat the entire Naval Headquarters submissively, which made 5 elders have to sell his face. Hiss. Hearing what Dracula 30 Mahawk told about Luo Hao dancing in Marineford, the red-haired Shanks and others felt their scalps go numb and their mouths gasp. Dare Sengoku and the Marines to give face to Luo Hao, but others use physical attacks to beat them into obedience. As for the captain of his own family, he came purely for the sake of sound and face. It's no wonder Sengoku and others would ignore him. Thinking about it this way, Ben Beckman's mentality is balanced. On pretend, I only obey Hokage-sama. Redhead Shanks also fell silent. Dare to feel is not that his fruit of face has been taken away by others, but that his fruit ability has not been developed in place. Thinking of Luo Hao's compelling lines when he danced in Marineford, he suddenly felt that his voice and face were not good. If you are really determined to stop this war, then he will be your only chance. Dracula Mahawk made a point. Red-haired Shanks was, after all, his only remaining friend on the Grand Line. He still couldn't bear to watch the other party end up being blown up by Whitebeard and others. Thanks, Hawkeye. Advertisement. Red-haired Shanks had a twinkle in his eye. After he said to Dracula Mahawk, he immediately picked up Conqueror's hockey, and walked towards Luo Hao in a coquettish way. Not good. Dracula Mahawk originally wanted to remind the red-haired Shanks to let him know Luo Hao's temperament and the way of talking, but when he saw the familiar walking movements of the red-haired Shanks and the overwhelming Conqueror's hockey, he couldn't help but think to himself. Something is going to happen. Hello, Mr. Hokage. My red-haired Shanks, I wonder if you could do me a favor and speak out to stop this war. The red-haired Shanks rode the Conqueror's hockey all the way to Luo Hao just like when he boarded the Moby DK to prevent Whitebeard from fighting with Marine. 88. 83. Garp. Sengoku. Knew it would happen. Dracula Mahawk turned away, unable to bear to watch what happened next. Zhang Chulin. 666. Show. The red-haired guy actually asked Boss Luo to give him face. Aizen Sosuke. I just actually studied this person's face fruit so seriously. Acedes. I have something to do, I need to leave first, let's talk back. After leaving a reply, Acedes put away the Wanjie chat skirt, and then dug out hundreds of thousands of half-dead northern aliens just now, and then said with the reburied leva. Dig it out and bury it again. Leva, Niu, Datas. Northern alien. Your Majesty, please give us a knife. Redhead. Advertisement. Sitting on the ice sculpture throne made by Aokiji himself, Luo Hao is holding a spoon in his right hand, looking like he is going to dig something to eat, but his left hand is empty. After being silent for a while, he looked down at the half-watermelon that had just been shattered by the Conqueror's hockey of the red-haired Shanks and fell on the ice, and then silently put down the spoon in his hand. Exactly. Redhead Shanks frowned slightly. It seems that this man has also heard our name. In this way, his face fruit is likely to be successfully launched. Thinking of this, his eyebrows could not help showing a trace of joy. What did you just say? Luo Hao looked up at the red-haired 880 Shanks. I wonder if your excellency can show me face and come forward to stop this war. Redhead Shanks recounted it. It is good. Luo Hao looked at the red-haired Shanks silently for a while, then smiled happily. Then please. The red-haired Shanks was overjoyed, secretly thinking that the fruit of saving face finally worked. It turned out that it wasn't my fruit ability that wasn't well developed. But just now I found the wrong person to perform it. Luo Hao in front of him is clearly the one who knows the goods. Overjoyed, he was just about to thank Luo Hao, but before he finished speaking, a palm as fast as lightning was already printed on his face, and then he pressed his entire face against the ice with his backhand, Lair. Come here as soon as you come, what conquerors? Didn't you see that I was digging watermelons and digging high? You smashed my watermelon as soon as you came, how can I give you face? Luo Hao pressed Shanks' face and rubbed it hard on the ground, while gritting his teeth. Chapter 96 I wish you happiness, Shanks. Advertisement. Hey, why are you beating someone? Lelouch's eyes were sharp and his mouth was quick. When he saw his captain being rubbed on the ground, he became anxious. The Usopp people on the side didn't say much, and even raised their rifles directly. But before he could fire, Ben Beckman put his hand on the muzzle of his gun. I will not only hit him, but also you. Just as Usopp cast a puzzled look at Ben Beckman, Luo Hao reached out and grabbed it. When everyone reacted, Lelouch and the red-haired Shanks who had already seen ended up in the same end. The two faces were like wire brushes, fiercely facing the ice layer back and forth for a while. Hiss. Vice Captain, you still have winks. Usopp felt his scalp go numb. If you shoot yourself. Witnessing the end of the red-haired Shanks and Lelouch, he suddenly shuddered. The captain is often ashamed of himself, but he is already used to it. But he can't. If he was being broadcast live in front of the world and rubbed against the ground like this, he would definitely not have the courage to let himself survive the next day. Captain, you fool. Ben Beckman was biting a cigar with a look of resentment. I knew it would be like this. That's because the fourth Hokage isn't a pirate. Shanks used the way of negotiating with other four emperors, sword conquerors Haki and walked over. Not only was he not respectful, but he was provocative. And he exploded fourth Hokage's watermelon, it's no wonder he didn't get beaten. Dracula Mahawk shook his head. Is that watermelon expensive? Let's just pay him one. Usopp said. I heard that 5 elders asked CP0 to send it to fourth Hokage. It seems that it is a kind of fruit dedicated to celestial dragons, and only the patriarch of celestial dragons is eligible to eat it. Advertisement. This fruit can often fetch 1,000,000 berries on the black market. Quote. Dracula Mahawk was clearly a man of his trade. It can be seen that in the past, he has often robbed ships transporting this fruit. Is it so delicious to eat? Where did we find this fruit for a while? Quote. Ben Beckman suddenly felt a little embarrassed. How about we pay for it? Usopp suggested. Money. Do you have 1,000,000 berry? Ben Beckman shot Usopp a sideways glance. Their red hair pirates is an alternative to the four emperors. Less territory, fewer members, and most importantly, less money. On weekdays, one by one is poor. Some members even took off their clothes from other pirates. No, Usopp opened 2 patched trouser pockets, but couldn't even find a berry. Hawkeye, can I borrow it first? Ben Beckman can only turn to Dracula Mahawk for alms. As the best friend of the captain of his own family, he must not refuse to save him. Go out with a black knife, everything depends on grabbing. Dracula Mahawk held Hidauya behind his back expressionlessly, and said silently in his heart. Good luck to you, Shanks. Isn't the captain dead? Usopp looked anxiously at Shanks, whose face was covered in ice. Now we can only see the captain's own fortune. Advertisement. But I think fourth Hokage should sell the captain's face, and he should calm down after playing for a while. Quote. Ben Beckman was silent for a moment, and then choked out the words that broke Red Shanks' heart. Captain Luo Hao lied to me, my companions are unreliable at critical moments. Hey, people really can only rely on themselves. Shanks, who was pinned on the ice, waited for a long time, but all his crew members could only stand aside and stare blankly, feeling a pain in his heart. The boat of friendship is about to capsize. Backquote wait, Hokage-sama, I have something to say. Redhead Shanks struggled for a word. Click. Gululu. Maybe seeing that he was still able to speak, Luo Hao pressed his right hand a little harder. The red-haired Shanks' face was rubbed directly against the ice, but now the ice was crushed, and his whole head was submerged in the water. When he opened his mouth, he couldn't make any sound except grunting. Boy Luo, why don't you just forget about it? Why don't you sell Laozi to save face, and call him for half an hour? Whitebeard, who was standing on the sidelines to watch the excitement, couldn't bear to watch it. Everyone is 4 emperors. On weekdays, I can't see the ups and downs. Hong Qianzhao's felt that Shanks was ashamed to this extent, but he also lost face along with him, the leader of the 4 emperors. Half an hour. The red-haired Shanks, whose head was in the water, heard this, and his face, which had turned pale because of his poor breathing, suddenly turned black. Whitebeard do you really know what you're talking about? Are you sure that Laozi will still be alive after being tortured by him for half an hour? Okay, I'll give you this face. Luo Hao pondered for a while, and then reached out to take a devil fruit that the red-haired Shanks took out from his pocket with great difficulty. After receiving other people's things, it is natural to do things for others. He graciously wrote off the matter of the watermelon being shattered just now. Chapter 97 Give me face, please accept it. Advertisement. You obviously agreed to give up only after accepting the gift from the red hair. You still said it so nicely, give Laozi some face. If the redhead doesn't turn in this devil fruit, if Laozi says a few more words, you might even put Laozi's head in the water together. Quote. When Whitebeard saw Luo Hao deftly accepting the devil fruit that the red-haired Shanks respected, his expression immediately changed, and he couldn't help cursing inwardly. I'm doing Whitebeard a favor. Let's forget about you smashing my watermelon. Quote. After Luo Hao sealed the devil fruit into the scroll, he let go of his right hand that was holding the back of the red-haired Shanks' head. Thank you Hokage-sama. Red-haired Shanks pulled his head out of the hole in an instant. The slap just now had already made him, the four emperors of the new world, see the horror of Luo Hao. Master Hokage, can I speak now? After regaining his freedom, he didn't think about revenge at the first moment, but asked Luo Hao with a smile on his face. Say it. Luo Hao nodded. After accepting someone else's devil fruit, it's still okay to listen to someone say a few words. Okay. 113 Master Hokage, I wonder if you can sell me some noodles. Before the red-haired Shanks finished speaking, Luo Hao gave him a sidelong glance. This look frightened him to quickly take back his fruit of face. That, Master Hokage, can you do me a favor and stop Whitebeard and their dispute? Redhead Shanks changed the subject. Obviously, he didn't dare to launch the fruit of face against Luo Hao casually. No. Luo Hao looked at the red-haired Shanks, then shook his head. Why, isn't Whitebeard your friend? Advertisement. You should have noticed that if you continue to fight, it will be extremely disadvantageous to him. When the time comes, not only will he be in danger, but even Ace, who was rescued with great difficulty, will fall into Marine's hands again. Quote. Redhead Shanks panicked. Originally, he had hoped that Luo Hao would agree to help him end the summit war if he took his devil fruit. It is because I am friends with Whitebeard that I will not interfere with his will. He wants to do his duty as a father and help his bullied son get justice. Then of course I will fulfill him. Luo Hao rubbed his thumb and index finger gently while talking. Like counting something. It seems to be waiting for something. But, when the red-haired Shanks wanted to persuade him again, Ben Bakuman suddenly walked over and whispered something in his ear. Captain, did you notice the movement of fourth Hokage's two fingers? I think this action hides some unknown mystery. If you can understand it, it should be able to help you achieve your goal. Quote. Ben Beckman is Ben Beckman. As the existence with one of the best IQs in the history of pirates. He saw at a glance that Luo Hao's gesture of rubbing his fingers was the key to impress him. Hidden mystery. The red-haired Shanks' eyes lit up, and his eyes immediately locked on Luo Hao's right hand. With such a gaze, a flash of light burst out in his mind. I understand. The red-haired Shanks patted his thigh, and then said to Luo Hao. Master Hokage, I pretended. Today I simply have a showdown with you. In addition to being the four emperors of the new, daft world, I also have a long history of friendship with Whitebeard and 5 elders. My old captain is the late One Piece, Gordy. Luo Jia, and the deputy captain lives in seclusion in the Sabayati archipelago Pluton Rayleigh. Advertisement. You see, my background is very strong, not ordinary people can compare with it. Seeing that the red-haired Shanks showed off his background and identity in front of Luo Hao, Ben Beckman and others changed their expressions drastically. Laozi didn't mean that, especially Ben Bakuman. He didn't expect that he had spoken so clearly. As a result, his stupid captain actually understood that he revealed his identity and background to intimidate Luo Hao. The background is very strong. No wonder you dare to let people give you face everywhere. And you can mix it all the way to the position of 4 emperors. Quote. Luo Hao recut a watermelon with the blade of the thunder spirit, and asked while digging. Since you already know my identity, I think you should know what to do. The red-haired Shanks said without a word. What do you want me to do? Luo Hao was eating watermelon in his mouth and staring at the red-haired Shanks. I'll give you one last chance. Give me face, please accept it. The red-haired Shanks was shocked, and the majestic Conqueror's haki burst out from his body. Immediately afterwards, he reached into his pocket and took out a box. Here is a devil fruit. It was brought out from the raftel by the old captain, and there is no information about this devil fruit recorded in the current devil fruit illustrated book, which is regarded as a deposit. Later, I will make up my Conqueror's haki and sword practice experience for you. As for the hindsight, I think the invention of man-made devil fruit is a good one, and it fits your temperament, Master Hokage. You can see if these can save you a little face next time. Quote. After Luo Hao took the devil fruit he handed out, he spoke the strongest words in a voice that only Luo Hao could hear. Helping others is the foundation of happiness. Okay, I'll take it. Under Shanks' eager eyes, Luo Hao nodded slowly, and then put the devil fruit into his pocket. Chapter 98 4 Emperors Battle, King of the Sea. Advertisement. Yes, yes, yes. Helping others is really the root of happiness. It is one of life's great pleasures to meet such a helpful hero like Hokage-sama. Quote. The red-haired Shanks laughed along with a smile. The thing about the war. Hey, I thought about it carefully just now, and I think what you said makes a little bit of sense. If the fight continues, no matter whether he wins or loses in the end, Whitebeard will probably die here. As his good friend, I really should persuade him not to just sit and watch him jump into the fire pit with all his sons. Quote. Before the red-haired Shanks could say something, Luo Hao sighed and stood up from the ice sculpture throne. Good man. True hero too. Whitebeard deserves a friend like you in his life. The red-haired Shanks slapped his thigh and said excitedly. Zhang Chulin. Could it be, is this how he became the 4 emperors? Aizen Sosuke. Chu Lan, tell me, this red-haired man, how did he break his arm? Zhang Chulin. Okay, it seems to be bitten off by the legendary King of the Sea. Seeds. King of the Sea. The reputation is quite hockey. It seems that he, the 4 emperors, is not all water, at least he still has something. Zhang Chulin. Of course, how can I say that the redhead is also the strongest man in hockey in the world? Zhang Chulin. Let me tell you, the four emperors level battle with the King of the Sea was the most well-known and most talked about feat of the red-haired four emperors. Luo Hao, Whitebeard, Aizen Sosuke. Who solved this King of the Sea in the end? Advertisement. Zhang Chulin. The red hair glared, and said, "Get out, face." The fruit of face immediately activated, and then scared the King of the Near Sea away. Aizen Sosuke. Seeds. Aizen Sosuke. Chu Lan, tell me honestly, if this King of the Sea is placed in my world, what level is it equivalent to? Is it at the level of a captain-level Shinigami? Zhang Chulin. You should be able to solve it by just finding an officer. Aizen Sosuke. Whitebeard, do me a favor and let me go to One Piece world. Acetus. Whitebeard, do me a favor and let me hack this Shanks. What the other four emperors are and how they became four emperors, they don't know. But for the red-haired four emperors, they feel that they are really well hydrated. Thinking that before, I actually listed the red-haired Shanks as the focus of attention, listed his face fruit as the most dangerous ability, and made a lot of notes for this. Aizen Sosuke had the idea of going to One Piece world, making friends with the red-haired Shanks, and talking about life. Compared with Aizen Sosuke's tactful, Seeds, the queen who buried and dug the alien races in the north, is much more brutal and direct. Captain, fortunately, you have extraordinary understanding. I'm really afraid you've misunderstood what I mean. You don't know, just now I almost thought I was going to find another job, and I could only go to Whitebeard's as a mate. Ben Bakaman breathed a sigh of relief when he saw the red-haired Shanks come back safe and sound. At that moment just now, when he looked at the red-haired Shanks, it was as if he was looking at a dead person. At that time, he was even thinking, if the red-haired Shanks died, what would he, the deputy captain, do? Are you going to switch to someone else's camp, or start from scratch? Yes, Captain. Zero looking for flowers. Advertisement. I was thinking just now that Whitebeard doesn't seem to have any good snipers. If you die, I certainly cannot avenge you. Then I can only try my best to live with your share. Quote. Usopp agrees. I thought so too. Whitebeard and 4th Hokage are good friends. I think as long as we go to him, 4th Hokage shouldn't care about what we did with you, boss. Quote. Lalu Chi, who had just been rubbed on the ground by Luo Hao, also learned a lot. Laozi is not dead yet, all of you are thinking of switching to other camps. Also, Bakaman, do I seem to be such a stupid person? Even Garp was pressed to the ground by his 3 palms, don't I know how much I weigh? Anxiously laughing, Shanks slapped his backhand, and buried Ben Bakaman, Usopp, and Master Lalu Kai together in the ice. Hawkeye, can he do it? If he is not as powerful as you said, and he still can't stop the war in the end, then I will lose a lot. That devil fruit was specially left for me by the captain. After so many years, I can't forget him. After casting a light of righteousness on the burial place of the 3 of Ben Bakaman, his electric light once again looked at Chuan Hao who was walking toward Chao's beard and the others. If you can't forget, write One Piece into your family tree. Also, I don't know if he can do it or not, but if you say it, he will definitely not do it. Dracula Mihawk said so, but he was a little uncertain in his heart. Don't look at Sengoku and the others, they are either booing and caring for Luo Hao, or they are just waiting for the horse, but that is the case when Luo Hao is strong enough and can bring enough benefits to the marine and world government. Chapter 99-3, My Face. Who will give it? Who doesn't give it? Advertisement. But now, Luo Hao is going to stop the war. Once there is a conflict of interests, it is hard to say whether Sengoku and others will continue to talk so well. After all, as Sengoku said, Marine paid such a big sacrifice, even the hunk Kizaru died, how could he just let Whitebeard go? Thinking of all this, even Dracula Mihawk, who has seen Luo Hao's strength, dare not say that this man will definitely be able to do it. 3. Just listen to me. At this time, Luo Hao had already walked in front of Whitebeard and the 3 of them. Garp, don't hit yet. Sengoku said to Garp, and changed from the golden Buddha form back to human. 093, faced Luo Hao, but he didn't dare to stand taller than him. Obviously, Sengoku was able to get from a sea soldier to the position of marshal, not because others gave him face, but because he took the initiative to give others face. Is this really Sengoku? Shanks in the distance saw Sengoku smiling like an old chrysanthemum, and couldn't help but wipe his eyes. Is there anything I can do for you? Sengoku asked cautiously. I'm here and I really want you to help me with something. Luo Hao nodded. Please speak, the old man is all ears. As long as the old man can do it, there is no other way. Sengoku is like the red-haired Shanks just now, with a smiling face. And you? Luo Hao looked at the silent Garp. Old. Before Garp could speak, he was afraid that he would speak nonsense, and Sengoku, who said something wrong, was already impatient and kicked him aside. His opinion doesn't matter. Marine's marshal is old, so Marine is also the old man who has the final say. Master Hokage, if you need anything, just tell me. Advertisement. You don't have to worry about unnecessary idlers and so on. After Sengoku withdrew his big foot, he turned his head and said to Luo Hao. What if I say, I want Marshal Sengoku to do me a favor and end this war? Even after coming to One Piece world, Luo Hao still does not change his style of doing things as the 4th Hokage. Talking and being a person are straightforward. There is no tact. As soon as he opened his mouth, he asked Marshal Sengoku to give him face. Didn't you say you would not take part in this war? When Sengoku heard this, the smile on his face froze immediately. I didn't intend to interfere. So this time I came here, I just asked. See Marshal Sengoku if you are willing to give me this face. Quote. As soon as Luo Hao's words came out, the entire battlefield became silent in an instant. Whether it's Whitebeard, Hongfa and others in the battlefield, 5 elders in Mariajoy, or Zhongchulin and other members in the skirt chat, they all stare at Luo Hao. Everybody knows. The direction of this war no longer depends on the contest between Whitebeard, Sengoku, and Garp, but on Luo Hao's personal will. Especially the red-haired Shanks who just said the same thing to the 3 of Sengoku not long ago. He stared at Luo Hao even more. He wanted to see whether he used the fruit of face in the wrong way, or Luo Hao took his fruit of face. What if I say no? As soon as Sengoku said this, a chilling and oppressive atmosphere instantly swept across the entire battlefield. Such an ambiguous answer. It seems that I didn't ask clearly enough. Luo Hao shook his head, his eyes fell on the 3 of Whitebeard, and then he asked again in an unhurried tone. 3, who will give me my face? Who won't give it? This time, he's not just asking Sengoku, 0. Also asking Garp, Whitebeard. Advertisement. Hokage, don't bully people too much. Under the gaze of many eyes, Garp couldn't help but speak first. Call out. The golden light flashed, and I felt in a trance for a while. When they came back to their senses, they realized that Garp had disappeared. At the same time, they also discovered that there was a bottomless sea pit in the sea thousands of meters away. I only want to hear 2 voices. I give and I don't give. I don't want to hear other unnecessary voices. Quote. Luo Hao lowered his slightly raised right hand again. Marines on Sengoku's side, are pirates on Whitebeard's side. They just feel like they are being oppressed by a piece of red line. A feeling of suffocation made each of them feel powerless like never before. Master Hokage, before answering you, I would like to ask a question. Is it that no matter which answer I make, you will keep your promise and will not intervene in this war? After a while, with Sengoku's opening, the silence of the 1.4 battlefield was broken again just now. Don't be so nervous. Do not worry. If you come out to mix, reputation is still very important. Quote. Luo Hao reached out and patted Sengoku's shoulder, and said with relief. Master Hokage, can you first put away the golden light on your right hand that is draping my shoulder? Sengoku nodded moodily, and then said to Luo Hao. Of course it's fine. Luo Hao nodded happily, and then dispersed the golden light from his hands. And that white mask. Sengoku glanced at the white mask exposed to the air as the golden light dissipated. Chapter 100 Face must be given, even the 5 elders can't stop it. Advertisement. Where do you come from so many demands? Luo Hao frowned slightly upon hearing this. Is that all right? He glanced at Sengoku, who was so frightened that he didn't dare to breathe, hesitated for a while, and finally removed the white mask on his right hand that made the atmosphere faintly rupture. Call. Sengoku saw the flashing fruit hanging on his shoulder, the power of the shock fruit, dissipate, leaving only Luo Hao's right hand on his shoulder, and he let out a sigh of relief. No way. Luo Hao's moodiness is really scary. In particular, there is a lesson from the past in front of you. Garp just said a word wrong. As a result, it was immediately sunk to the bottom of the sea. Originally, he thought that even if Garp couldn't beat Luo Hao after he regained his youth, he could still parry 1230. But the cruel fact in front of him woke him up with a slap. Whether it's him or Garp, even if the 2 of them recover their youth together and stand side by side, it's the same thing in front of Luo Hao. Okay. Sengoku gasped for a while before he regained his composure. Sengoku, think about it. Marine's future, dignity, and status are all in your mind. At this time, Garp, who was shot down into the deep sea, also climbed up from the bottom of the sea. I see. Sengoku nodded solemnly. As Marine Marshal, he certainly knows how much his answer will affect Marine. Advertisement. Don't be nervous. I still say that. Regardless of whether you give me this face or not, I will never intervene in Summit War again. Quote. Luo Hao reached out and patted Sengoku's shoulder, and said with relief. Master Hokage, thank you very much for keeping your promise. Hearing this, Sengoku shook his body slightly. Fangfo couldn't believe that Luo Hao was really so reasonable. He still bought it, so he took the initiative to comfort him, giving him the courage to speak the truth. No, that's what I should do. Well, now you can state your answer. Quote. Luo Hao shook his head. Master Hokage, please forgive me for offending you. Sengoku took a deep breath and bravely met Luo Hao's gaze. Master Marshal will reject him. As expected of Marshal Sengoku, even in the face of a powerhouse like 4th Hokage, he can obey the justice in his heart. In order to maintain absolute justice, even in the face of the 4th Hokage, we must not shrink back. On the battlefield, Marine executives who were not stunned by Conqueror's haki were shocked physically and mentally after hearing Sengoku's answer. When Sengoku faced Luo Hao, he still insisted on the justice in his heart, making the Ghost Spider and other Marine generals feel as if they had been beaten with chicken blood, and they all cheered up. At this moment, they were encouraged like never before, and they even forgot how powerful Luo Hao was. Marine generals looked up to the sky and shouted, "Absolute justice! What are you going to do?" 4th Hokage. The red-haired Shanks, Dracula Mahawk and others did not speak, but cast probing gazes at Luo Hao. They all want to know whether Luo Hao will keep his promise, or tear up the agreement and get angry. Advertisement. Everyone be quiet. Sengoku stretched out his hand, and the Marines who were shouting for absolute justice fell silent. It's just that although they no longer shouted to the sky, each of them was full of fighting spirit and courage when they looked at Sengoku. Sengoku used his actions to defend the absolute justice that Marine has always adhered to. It also made them courageous, even if they sacrifice their lives, the justice of Marine cannot be tarnished. Lord Hokage, the butcher has thought clearly. Your request is really too much for this old man and Marine. As the marshal of the Marine, I must give you this face. Sengoku, said this, and the 5 elders can't stop it. Under the enthusiastic eyes of all the Marine generals, Sengoku held his head high and shouted his answer to Luo Hao in an unquestionable and firm tone. Quote, a group of Marine generals headed by Aokiji and Akainu suddenly froze. A group of Shichibukai headed by Dracula Mahawk and Don Quixote Doflamingo were stunned on the spot. Whitebeard, red-haired Shanks, the 4 emperors and many pirates with 22.3 ranks were all dumbfounded. Zhang Chulin. Beautiful. Dewei Tianlong is also scared. Acedes. Use the most ruthless tone and say the most embarrassing words. Aizen Sosuke. Your Excellency Hokage, I don't know why I always feel that the camera of the live broadcast seems to be a bit wrong, can you adjust it? Luo Hao. As there. Let me see. Zhang Chulin. Captain Aizen didn't say anything, I didn't pay attention to it, but when he said that, I realized that something was wrong with the camera. Acedes. Zoom back a little, zoom in a little, don't give Sengoku all the shots, at least put the background and other supporting Kakuzu into the video. At the request of many skirt friends, Luo Hao adjusted the video that captured the picture. Originally, there was only Sengoku in the live broadcast. But as he adjusted the camera, not only Don Quixote Doflamingo and others were captured, but also the scene with Sengoku as the center and a radius of hundreds of meters was clearly presented in the live broadcast of Kunchat. Chapter 101. What are you looking at? There is a kind of one-on-one advertisement. Only Sengoku, Luo Hao, Whitebeard, and Garp were shown in the live video of Kunchat before. The entire picture is a close-up of the two. Hongfa and the others, as well as the situation on the battlefield, did not appear in the live video. But as Luo Hao adjusted the camera, when Zhang Chulin and others turned their attention to the live video again, their expressions suddenly became extremely exciting. In the center of the battlefield, only Luo Hao, Whitebeard, Sengoku, and Garp, who just got up from the bottom of the sea, were confronting each other. But now, behind Luo Hao, a large group of extremely neat human heads unexpectedly appeared behind him. Looking around, there are at least 3,000. The most important thing is that there are more than 3,000 people who suddenly appeared, each of whom looks exactly like Luo Hao. Apparently these are Luo Hao's shadow clone. What stunned Zhang Chulin and others even more was that these more than 3,000 shadow clones were all staring at Sengoku indifferently. What about you, Garp? After seeing Sengoku nodding and promising to save himself, Luo Hao immediately shifted his gaze to Garp. As Luo Hao's gaze changed, thousands of shadow clone behind him also looked at Garp. Although these shadow clones are nothing, the invisible oppression formed by more than 3,000 shadow clones as a platoon has already slapped Garp's mind like a wave. When Garp was about to blurt out that the old man would not show face, he suddenly found that these 10-fold loyal shadow clones all made the same movement in unison. Put Buddha after countless rehearsals. The moment Garp opened his mouth to say the word old, 3,000 shadow clone raised their left and right hands at the same time. A sun-like golden light burst out from the left hand, and a white light mask shrouded the right hand. In an instant, the oppression, which was hundreds of times more violent than before, surged like an overwhelming mountain. Even a king like Garp who has experienced many battles and has Conqueror's haki is so chilled that he has goosebumps all over his body. Advertisement. Garp, my face, will you give it or not? Luo Hao had a peaceful smile on his face. If you don't look at the powerful 3,000 shadow clone behind him, but just look at his expression, you will definitely think that he is chatting with a long-lost friend and confidant. Master Hokage, you have reached this point. As a friend, how could Tuxi have the heart to reject you? Garp closed his eyes weakly, and forced out 3 words. Give me the old man. As soon as the words fell, 2 teardrops immediately slipped from the corners of their eyes onto the ice floor. This incomparably moving acting was just captured by the live broadcast. Garp's moving expression changes also brought a strong visual and spiritual impact to Zhang Chulin's skirt friends. Go, take your son home and have a banquet. Luo Hao's figure flashed, and he put a hand on Whitebeard's shoulder. Why don't you even ask Laozi? Did Laozi promise to give you face? Whitebeard said grimly. Facing Garp and Sengoku, these 2 immortals, Luo Hao asked them for their opinions symbolically. But when he came to himself, he even avoided the formalities. Doesn't that mean he's not as good as Garp, Sengoku? This made him the strongest man in the world. How could he bear this breath? The strongest man in the world is well deserved. Sure enough, this is the courage that a king should have. Advertisement. If I don't give you face, I won't give you face. With the outstanding performance of Sengoku and Garp, Whitebeard rejected Luo Hao without even frowning, but the people who witnessed this scene applauded secretly. As expected of an existence that can be as famous as the captain. In the end, he's the toughest one. Even for the red-haired Shanks, the 4 emperors who specifically asked Luo Hao to help him end the Summit War, when he saw Whitebeard's performance, he couldn't help but praise him for being a king. Then you mean you don't want to give me this face? Luo Hao patted Whitebeard's shoulder lightly, then turned and walked away. Hey, Laozi didn't say no to face, he just wanted you to give me a step, at least you asked symbolically. Seeing Luo Hao walk away neatly, Whitebeard's heart suddenly developed. Noticing something was wrong, he immediately started a private chat with Luo Hao, wanting to explain. But before his message was sent out, the 3000 shadow clone had already surrounded him. What are you looking at? Come out and challenge yourself. Surrounded by Qian Chenjiao, 3000 shadow clone, Whitebeard swallowed hard. What did you say? Suspended in Luo Hao glanced at Whitebeard indifferently. Come on. If you hit me, what if I hit you? In the end it's not. Laozi give you face. Whitebeard vigorously raised Kong Yunqi, as if he was going to fight. It's just that when he was halfway through speaking, the conversation suddenly changed. Kong Yunqi, who originally raised a pair of weapons to kill people, turned into a gesture of raising a weapon to surrender. Luo Hao nodded. With his nod, the 3000 shadow clones that had already started to seal immediately stopped their movements. Chapter 102 New World. Carrying the hand. Advertisement. Call. Seeing that the 3000 shadow clones finally stopped their hand seals, Whitebeard breathed a sigh of relief. I saw Sengoku and Garp just being stared at by 3000 shadow clone before, and they were scared. He was still secretly laughing at the two of them. But when it was his turn, he found that he couldn't laugh at all. Especially when 3000 shadow clone formed seals together in front of him, he felt that his Conqueror's Hokage was too scared to release it. Fortunately, the most embarrassing is not me. Seeing Whitebeard's superb performance, Sengoku felt a lot more balanced. Originally, he thought he was the Marine Marshal, but he was the first to give up. It must be the most embarrassing one. However, Garp and Whitebeard's superb performances surpassed their own, but it made Sengoku feel that he was not ashamed. That, boy Luo, have you put away all of your shadow clones? Whitebeard asked Luo Hao cautiously. Although the shadow clone in front of him didn't make any gestures of sealing seals, he was still a little flustered being surrounded by people like this. 827. How, aren't you a great leader in New World? This scene scares you. Quote. Luo Hao lightly snapped his fingers. With a bang, 3000 shadow clones suddenly turned into a large white mist. Don't say such bad things. Advertisement. Who are we with whom? Good buddy. Of course Laozi wants to give you face. Whitebeard walked up to Luo Hao, looking like a good buddy with his shoulders on his shoulders. Hey, there are a lot of people here. Especially those sons of Laozi are still watching. Can you give Laozi some face? Can this face be hit here today? Laozi looked at Germa's technological products. The clone soldier is good, and Laozi will make a copy for you later. Except for Zhang Chulin and other skirt friends in the live broadcast, no one heard Whitebeard whisper a few words when he put Luo Hao's shoulder take. See how nervous you are. Who are we? A well-known buddy in the skirt chat. How could I have the heart to let 3000 shadow clone hit you with ninjutsu? I just watched the atmosphere on the battlefield a little nervous, so I'm just joking with you. Hearing this, Luo Hao not only burst into a bright smile on his face, but also hooked Whitebeard's shoulders with his right hand. It turns out he was just playing around with Dad. I just said, how could you not give him face? It turns out that the two of you were joking. Standing in the distance, Margao, Ace and others breathed a sigh of relief when they saw the two talking and laughing. They were really worried about the conflict between Whitebeard and Luo Hao just now. After all, as sons, they know very well that apart from good wine, their father is good at saving face. Zhang Chulin. The friendship maintained by money is so strong and touching. Advertisement. Acedes. New World is in charge. Is this what the four emperors are all about? Aizen Sosuke. Chu Lan, how did Whitebeard pull this huge pirate group? Zhang Chulin. I think, it should be the reason for eating the sun's fruit. Aizen Sosuke. Sun fruit. Just one devil fruit can make so many strong people fall in love with him, and even consider him a father at the expense of himself. Is this the evil result of paramesha at the top level? Aizen Sosuke, who was taking notes, saw the conversation between Zhang Chulin and Acedes, and the hand holding the pen trembled. After glancing at the information on the notebook, Aizen Sosuke immediately picked up his pen and was about to add one more item to his abilities, Sun Fruit. Abilities. Shock Fruit Lost Sage Body, Wood Style. Acetus. What ability? Risk Factor. Skirt Chat is the third. Acetus. So Whitebeard greened Gordy. Luo Jia, Zhang Chulin. You're absolutely right. It can be said that the reason why One Piece World is named Pirate is also because of Gordy. Luo Jia. When Zhang Chulin mentioned that Whitebeard is actually a double demon fruit power, Aizen Sosuke immediately turned the notebook to the page where Whitebeard's information was recorded. It was just that Aizen Sosuke, who was frightened, didn't notice that Luo Hao in One Piece World watched them chatting with great interest. But Whitebeard, who was hanging shoulder to shoulder with him, turned dark at this time. Identity. 4 Emperors of One Piece World, Captain of Whitebeard Pirates, chat skirt friend of Wanjie, number 1 younger brother of 4th Hokage. Name. Whitebeard. Aizen Sosuke. Aizen is in charge of the world. Doesn't this mean that this man named Galdi? Luo Jia is not inferior to Lord Hokage? Zhang Chulin. Although Sun Fruit is not as destructive as other Superman's Devil Fruit, it has an extremely unique and terrifying ability. Acedes. Did I miss it? This guy also has dual demon fruit power. Zhang Chulin. Look, the person named Ace in the screen has a very strong background. He is the real son of Gordy. Luo Jia, who was the leader of the old One Piece world. Aizen Sosuke. What? Sun Fruit is such a terrifying ability. Chapter 103 Sun Fruit. Whitebeard green Luo Hao. Advertisement. I didn't expect Whitebeard, who looks like an honest person, to have such evil and terrifying abilities. No wonder he was unmarried in his 70s. If you want to develop your sun fruit ability to ultimate, you have to stay single all the time. The more Aizen Sosuke thought about it, the more fearful he felt. At this time, he was startled to realize that the strongest man in the world was like this. No wonder it will be hailed as the strongest. Not only is the One Piece King Gordy Luo Hao green, but he can even snatch other people's sons. The devil fruit of the Grand Line is much weirder than Tegu. Originally, I thought that the more destructive the devil fruit, the scarier it would be. Now it seems that abilities like sun fruit are the weirdest and most difficult ones. Quote. A seeds on the inside. Keep reminding yourself. If you have the opportunity to go to Pirate World in the future, you must be careful of Whitebeard's sun fruit. After all, she is still a girl with yellow flowers, and she doesn't want to have a son so soon, let alone a child with the ability of the sun fruit. Especially she recently had the idea of falling in love. I just want to find someone who fully meets my criteria. Aizen Sosuke. Chu Lan, tell me about the ability of this sun's fruit. Zhang Chulin. Okay, is this sun's fruit? Looking at the Grand Line, only the red-haired Shanks face fruit can be as famous as it. Zhang Chulin. When you activate the fruit of face, you need to say a sentence. Give me face. When you activate the fruit of sun, you also need to say a sentence. Be my son. A seeds. Aizen Sosuke. Zhang Chulin. Think about it. Just by looking at the size of the Whitebeard pirates, you can imagine how many ignorant teenagers dad has said, be my son. Whitebeard. Billion, be my son. Advertisement. Zhang Chulin. Whitebeard. You brat, dare to use daddy as an excuse, and say that Laozi ate a sun fruit that is as famous as the red-haired face fruit. What's even more hateful is that you actually said that Laozi is green Luo Hao. Whitebeard. Laozi doesn't even know what Luo Hao's wife looks like. You said I cheated on him. And took his son. Does Laozi need to rely on this crooked way to accept his son? Laozi's sons are all attracted by Laozi's charm convinced, I am willing to accept Laozi as my father. Luo Hao. Calm down. This can't be entirely blamed on Billion, it's mainly because you were as classic as the redhead. Luo Hao. Anyone who sees people wants others to give him face, and a man who sees people wants others to be his son. 883. Aizen Sosuke silently tore up the notebook in his hand, then took out another notebook with 4 characters written on the must-kill list, and then silently added 2 new names on it. Redhead Shanks. Zhang Chulin. On the other side, a seeds, who had just left the alien burial ground in the north, stopped again. Listen, everyone, immediately dig out the northern aliens in the pit, and then bury them again. Before a seeds could speak, Liwa had already volunteered to give orders to the troops under his command. This time he understood. This method of burying and digging and burying is obviously a new criminal law that General Acids recently thought up. No more digging. Go to the lair of these aliens. Exterminate the genocide directly. Acids gave the most cruel and bloody order with a smile on his face. Originally, she still wanted to keep her roots of the alien race in the north, and come to the north to fight once a year. But now, she has changed her mind. 0 for flowers. Directly dig out the roots of the foreign race in the north, not even a single person of the foreign race is left behind. Anyway, the alien race in the north slaughtered her whole family when she was a child, and now it is time to avenge the dead family members. Advertisement. Comma. After comforting Whitebeard, who was so angry with Zhang Chulin, Luo Hao came to the red-haired Shanks. Master Hokage, this is yours. I just prepared it for you. The very discerning red-haired Shanks quickly brought a notebook thick enough to be as tall as a person. I really don't know why he, a pirate, carries a notebook with him. There is a future. Whitebeard has been a pirate in his 70s, but he doesn't even know a single word. And you, not easy. But at the age of 30 or 40, you can read and write, and you can even write ministers. Tisk tisk. Look at your handwriting. In terms of cultural level, you are more than 6 or 7 ranks higher than Whitebeard. Quote. Luo Hao took the note from the red hair, and after opening it, his eyes suddenly lit up. Although the handwriting of the red hair is slightly scribbled, it is very King Hockey. With just a dozen or so characters, a piece of paper can be filled, that's incomparable. It's no wonder that a little conqueror's hockey and swordsmanship training experience can be written in a notebook as tall as a person. Master Hokage praised me, I'm just doing one line and loving one line. After all, in order to stand out in this extremely competitive pirate industry, one must master several professional skills. Redhead Shanks said a little shyly. Sure enough, Mr. Hokage is a man of knowledge. One can tell at a glance that his handwriting is good. It also shows how much more promising and educated he is than Whitebeard. Chapter 104 Stussy. Master Hokage, are you driving? Advertisement. Have eyes. You can hand over the rest of the man-made devil fruit research data to Whitebeard. Quote. After Luo Hao sealed the one-person tall notebook into the scroll, he patted the red-haired Shanks on the shoulder. Really, anyone who can become 4 emperors in this pirate industry where capable people emerge in large numbers is a talent. Sun fruit ability user. Whitebeard, tell everyone to be my son. Face fruit ability user. Shanks, tell me to save face when you meet someone. As for Kaido, who has not yet played, Charlotte Linlin is no less impressive, each with its own characteristics and expertise. No problem. Redhead Shanks nodded. Master Hokage, since this war is over, 323, I wonder if you have time to stay for a light meal. Your Excellency, 5 elders, and this concubine want to have a deeper contact with you. At this time, Stussy walked over with Sengoku, who had just issued a series of post-war orders. Miss Stussy, make up your mind. But I still have courier to deliver, so I have to skip this meal. You do me a favor by thanking the 5 elders for their kindness. Seeing that Stussy was almost clinging to his body when he was speaking, his eyes like autumn water were shining brightly, and the big characters Hokage-sama, drive a car were written on his pretty face, but Luo Hao shook his head. Not to mention that there is a new performance car just waiting for him to go back to run in at home, but it is said that Pluden Rayleigh just placed an order in his Hokage live broadcast room not long ago, and he can only reluctantly refuse this meal opportunity for drag racing. After all, Pluden Rayleigh is also the first customer to place an order since the opening of his live broadcast room. And he is also a big customer who orders 5 tubes of Hashirama cells. Adhering to the business purpose of putting big customers first, he still wants to serve well. Since that's the case, then I won't keep Hokage-sama either. So as not to delay your business. Quote. Sengoku was shocked when he heard this. Advertisement. Almost forgot about Pluden Rayleigh. He who has used the Hashirama cell product knows very well that the Hashirama cell is really good, really wonderful, and really croaking. 5 tubes of Hashirama cells, which means that there are at least 5 members of the Luo Uchiha pirates who will regain their youth. We must be prepared to deal with them coming out again. Thinking of this, Sengoku felt a burst of pressure in his heart. Compared with the so-called supernovas of New World, those already old and outdated legendary pirates are really scary. As for the crew members of the Luo Uchiha pirates, if they pull out one at random, even if they are in their 70s and 80s, they can still beat all the supernovas this year with their own strength. Just send it here, Sengoku. Just when Sengoku was worried, Luo Hao said suddenly. Very well, my lord. You go all the way. Sengoku temporarily suppressed his worries, then waved to Luo Hao. Everything is here, send it to me again. Luo Hao nodded to Whitebeard, and then stepped out. The person had disappeared without a trace. On the Grand Line, without a ship, without a permanent pointer, it is impossible to move an inch. But Luo Hao, who has never been to the pirate world, has crossed the sea area between Marineford and Tsubayate Archipelago alone without a ship, a permanent pointer, and a navigator. Possesses Glitter Fruit and Flying Thunder God 3rd stage, plus his perception is even better than Senju Tobarama. All the disasters and climate in the first half of the Grand Line are nothing in front of him. Starting from Marineford, others have arrived at Tsubayate Archipelago in less than 3 minutes. With his powerful perception, as soon as his front foot reached the Tsubayate Archipelago, his back foot had already sensed the position of Pluden Rayleigh. Hokage Express, cash on delivery. Mr. Rayleigh, please come out and sign for your courier. Luo Hao, who came to the door of a bar in an instant, immediately said loudly. 0. So fast. Advertisement. Is this the speed of jump space? Silently, like a ghost. It is much more terrifying than the speed of the flashing fruit. Faced with this speed, even if observation haki perceives it, it is useless. The body can't react at all. Unless observation haki is cultivated to the point of predicting the future, otherwise, no matter how many people deal with him, they can only hang their hands and wait for death. It is also true that he is extremely familiar with the ability of the shining fruit. While talking, Luo Hao took out 5 tubes of cells from the scroll. Monster. Rayleigh looked at the extremely young and heroic Luo Hao, who was only in his early 20s, and couldn't help sighing 0.2 in his heart. It's okay. Customers come first. When I was 20 years old, I probably didn't even deserve to carry his shoes. Master Hokage, you have to come here for me, a bad old man, it's really troublesome for you. Here are the 5 tubes of Hashirama cells you just ordered remotely. Fortunately, as the right arm of One Piece, he is a big shot after all. At a young age, Kizaru was not even less ed. When it comes to business, Luo Hao's attitude is unspeakably good. Pluden Rayleigh, who was drinking in the bar, was shocked when he heard this. Just Mr. Rayleigh, you are the first customer to place an order after the Hokage live broadcast room opened, so I have to go there in person. If there is no problem, please sign and pay here. At least Rayleigh couldn't help but give him a 5-star praise after seeing it. In an instant, he calmed down his shaking mind, then got up and walked out of the bar. Mr. Rayleigh, you check it out. It's not that he hasn't fought Kizaru before. Chapter 105 Driving more fiercely than me. Must die. Advertisement. There is no need to check. What could be wrong with something that Hokage-sama personally delivered? Rayleigh smiled and shook his head. After receiving 5 tubes of Hashirama cells, he immediately handed a package to Luo Hao. Luo Hao opened the package and found 5 boxes inside. He had memorized the Devil Fruit illustrated book by heart, and after just one glance, he confirmed that these 5 devil fruits were not Logia, Paramesh's superior devil fruit, or Zone's phantom beast species. Apparently, Pluden Rayleigh wasn't getting any water on the matter. By the way, Mr. Rayleigh, there is something I want to ask you. Quote. After Rayleigh paid, Luo Hao originally wanted to leave. After all, he has been out for a while. Not to mention that Hokage World is going to start a war with Cloud Shinobi Village, but just because of the new performance car that Zeti just brought home, he will go back regularly to get in touch with Tsunade. Otherwise, after a long time, the driving skills will inevitably deteriorate. You want to ask 30 what the ability of that devil fruit that Shanks gave you is. Rayleigh also saw that Luo Hao was busy with affairs, so he didn't invite Luo Hao in for a drink. Right. Luo Hao nodded. He has harvested more than a dozen high-level devil fruits during this journey of pirate travel. Due to the devil fruit illustrated book, he knows the ability of every devil fruit clearly. Only the devil fruit that Shanks gave him, which is said to be brought out from Raftel, is not even recorded in the illustrated book. On this question, old man, I can't help you. This devil fruit was found by Luo Jia when he boarded the Raftel. But you know, the people on our boat don't like to eat devil fruit very much. Moreover, Luo Jia was already seriously ill at that time, so he would not eat. So this devil fruit finally passed to Shanks. Quote. Rayleigh shrugged, saying that he didn't know what the ability of the devil fruit in Shanks' hand was. Advertisement. As that's so, Luo Hao couldn't help sighing secretly when he heard this. Unexpectedly, even Pluden Rayleigh, who knew almost all the secrets, didn't know what ability this devil fruit possessed. Unfortunately, Luo Jia is dead. If he is still alive, he can help you find out the ability of this devil fruit. Rayleigh said, listen to the voice of all things. Luo Hao was stunned for a moment, and then realized it immediately. Good. Rayleigh nodded. As that's so, do you want to go find Momonosuke and kill him? Luo Hao couldn't help thinking when he heard this. Just drive Momonosuke more fiercely than himself, this guy must die. After all, as a speeding driver, he is enough to be popular. But soon, he gave up. It's not that I don't want to be slaughtered. It's just that there's no need to make a special trip in person. Whether it is to solve the mystery of this devil fruit or kill Momonosuke, it doesn't need to be so troublesome. Just talk to Don Quixote Doflamingo who hit distinguished heavenly gods. It is estimated that in a few days, I will be able to see Momonosuke being dismembered. It's really a pity, I can't help you with this doubt. But I think the stuff from Raftel is pretty good. You deserve it. Rayleigh shook his head apologetically. Fine. Advertisement. I've figured out how to figure out this devil fruit. Quote. Luo Hao smiled. He is still holding the newly appointed One-Piece Pot King, Blackbeard. Waiting for him to return to Konoha, find an enemy ninja, and then he can solve this problem by eating the devil fruit ability. If the ability is really strong, then bring out the Blackbeard Impure World reincarnation, and let it help to capture it. If this devil fruit just happened to grow in Raftel by accident, and it doesn't have any terrible abilities, then that's fine. Isn't it just a devil fruit? 100 million berry only. With a big family and a big business, he can afford to waste it. Aizen Sosuke. After Chu Lan, is the chat skirt finally ushering in a new skirt friend? Could it be that he also has the ability to hear the voice of all things? Luo Hao. Stop diving, start bubbling. A new cutie is coming, come out and welcome him. Just when he was about to open the passageway back to the world of Hokage, he heard a ding in his ear. He was no longer surprised when he thought that Luo Hao used one ability after another in the summit war like never ending. Luo Hao, who had witnessed Zhang Chulin's cute new dress of billion, was slightly taken aback, and immediately reacted. I have to go now. Zhang Chulin. No matter who it is, I finally don't have to be the younger brother in the skirt chat. Fifth, I can be a senior. At the same time, the Wanjie chat skirt in front of him was shaking violently. Okay, you signed for the delivery. If this kind of man really has the ability to listen to the voice of all things, it would be nothing unusual. Ding. Then congratulations. Acetus. I don't know who it is. Whitebeard. This is the sixth skirt friend. Rayleigh listened and couldn't help but glance at Luo Hao. After thinking about what to do with the devil fruit produced by Raftel, Luo Hao waved to Rayleigh, and then opened the Wanjie chat group. Are there any cute new dresses?